The following program deals with a controversial
subject.
The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation.
The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
The top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Tuesday night. We figured it out. We're bringing you a show. We might be 50 minutes late, but we are bringing you a show. We've had some technical and life difficulties. Jesse has a family emergency he's having to take care of, which is kind of a bummer, but I'll let him tell you about that when the time comes. So thoughts and prayers go out to Jesse and his family. And then we had technical difficulties between me and Dennis. We couldn't hear each other for some reason. So we figured it out.
More than likely, it was my fault.
It's okay. You're a boomer, as they say. You're a boomer. It is what it is. But we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about tonight. Because
what is there anything interesting going on, Brian?
I there's just a little bit of something interesting. So for those of you guys who have been following along, which has been our main, content on the show for the last however many weeks, this Diamond bankruptcy is crazy right now. So to catch everybody up, initially Alliance Entertainment had emerged as the leading bidder to get Diamond, the Diamond assets, with a bid of, some people are saying around $80 million total for Diamond distribution. However, Diamond's owners it's being reported, are favoring a joint bid from two different companies, one being Universal Distribution, the other being AdPop, aka Ad Populum, amounting to around how much, everybody? How much?
69.
69 million, which is crazy because you would think, wait, that's less than 80 million. Why are we even here? Well, something is afoot, and I think you know what that means.
Where's Mighty Mel? Yeah. Mighty Mel, we need you to come into the chat and tell us what is afoot.
Yeah, something is afoot. So this has, because the craziness that is afoot, which is the ruling, from what we're hearing, is that Diamond's owners, because they're favoring the joint bid from Universal and AdPop, which is less than the offer made by Alliance Entertainment in the allotted time to make the bid, Alliance is now filing a lawsuit against Diamond, alleging unfair treatment and secret negotiations with backup bidders. Wah, wah, wah. So
to answer the chat, I am not responsible. They even apparently tried to bring up this podcast as evidence, and the judge was like, "Nope, not having it."
Yep.
So we're off the hook, Brian. I'm just letting you know. We are off the hook.
And I'm celebrating, ladies and gentlemen. I'm celebrating.
Cheers. Cheers, Brian.
Cheers. Yes. Yeah. So, this is crazy, man.
No, dude, here's the thing. If you watch this show, you understand. I think out of every talking head in this industry, everyone, from November through December and all through January, February, and March, no show has got it as right as this show, with me, Jesse, and Brian breaking down everything that we thought and we know. Trust me, I didn't predict these last 2 weeks at all. Yeah. I have no clue. I am now spinning on the water. The wheel is going around like Gilligan's Island. I have no clue where we're going to land.
Yeah, this is so weird to me, because if I thought I knew what was going on a couple of years ago and I didn't know shit then, and this happens, it's still making me realize I still don't know shit, because when somebody said that, oh, they're accepting a lesser bid in extra time, even though they were losing in extra time, like none of this makes sense to me. Like, how
No.
can this
Well,
happen?
okay, so I think I have an idea just reading the stuff that I've read. And I'm not going to get into the wild speculations yet. But people don't think that the comic book industry will be the same if Diamond goes to Alliance. And somehow, if Universal and AdPop get it, the industry will be better. So what I've been hearing is several of the creditors that are owed money are objecting to the sale through to Alliance because that will not continue the gravy train for them. They're going to get paid because, like we were talking pre-show, Diamond filed bankruptcy for $39 million. Now that number is going to rise. Even on this show, Nikki Barucci said, hey, yeah, we found another couple bucks that they owe us here or there, and there's stuff that's in the inventory and all of this. However, that's going to get paid, whether it's the 69 or the 74 or the 84.
80, yeah.
So that shouldn't be a consideration. And if this management, the management that's part of Diamond, that's wanting it to go over here rather than over there, if that's the case.
Well,
like
let's
I said,
talk about
it's
that.
Allegedly.
Let's talk about that because there have been
Okay.
quite a few articles written. Shout out to Rich Johnson at Bleeding Cool, who has been obviously on point, just talking about everything and great job.
And nothing for nothing, he was on our show 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So ICV2, is that what it is? ICV2? Yeah, ICV2. Yep. Also reporting on stuff. It was everywhere that I went at WonderCon. People asked me about it, so it's major news everywhere for the comics world. So there has been these weird reports or weird pockets, even on like Reddit and Facebook commenting, and people within the industry. Everybody's got their own little areas where they talk about this stuff. We have been hearing these rumors that maybe the employees at Diamond didn't like what they were hearing or seeing on how they wanted this to end out, and they had some say in this, being employees. I don't know what that means, though. What does that mean, Dennis? I mean, what do you take that to mean?
Okay, so there's two different levels that you have to understand. There's upper management, there's middle management, and then there's employees. And this is no offense. The employees are the guys that take the garbage out, box the boxes. They got no say in this.
Yeah.
They don't have any say in this. They just need to know whether they're going to show up to work and get paid next week.
Yeah.
Middle management. These are people who call the stores and they call the publishers to make sure this gets here, that gets there. But, they call the warehouse to make sure this order gets put out or, whatever. We're only talking about upper management right now because they're the only people that are involved in the sale. They have to, we keep saying it, they have to actually hand the keys over to whoever wins. And they're the ones with the keys. And there's a president and a COO and a CFO and a whole bunch of people.
Maybe that have been there a long time. I don't know. They could be.
I know for a fact the top two people at Diamond have been there since Steve Jeppy.
So they hold Diamond. A lot of sway with the Jeppies and maybe the trustee,
Yep. Well, Steve is the honcho. He's the CEO. And then there's, two people below him that have been there just as long. And Steve knows them well enough to just hand them the keys and say, guys, call me if you need me. You know what I'm saying? So, and then there's a bunch of people under there. They actually don't even exist in the same office as that middle management team. So there's an entire different building that they're in, area. So if you've been there 35 years, you've been there 20 years, you've been there, and all of a sudden you look at who's Alliance. Oh, this guy? I mean, he gobbles up companies left and right. Let's see if any of their old managers. He talked on our show about acquisitions. Let's go see if the COO of this record store chain got to keep their job over at Alliance. Nope. Let's see if this CFO got to keep a job at Alliance when they got gobbled up. Nope. Well, if you wanted to keep your job and you think you got another 5 years in you before you retire, would you throw a wrench into that gear and try to get it to somebody who you think would still run it the way Diamond ran it into the ground? I mean, you can't look at this in any other way, Brian. All of those people at the top, they put Diamond in this situation. You can't look at it any other way. Diamond owes $39 million, period. Those guys were sitting on the deck of the ship, steering it right towards that $39 million iceberg. And they're the ones that took on water. They were the ones rearranging deck chairs back in November.
Well, here's okay. So we have a lot of questions, a lot of things to talk about throughout the show. So we're going to be all over the place. We're going to try and ask questions. So the chat has some good questions, and there's some things I want to bring up. I see a lot of people talking about how they feel like, okay, this is better if Universal gets it because Universal and AdPop are more situated to work better with the comics world. And they're going to want to do it for comics where a lot of people feel like AENT is more coming from the music distribution world, and they just are now getting into collectibles, and they don't feel as confident with them. Here's my thing. I don't look at it that way, because I also got to say Universal and AdPop and NECA, are they American companies? I don't think they are,
okay,
right?
So AdPop is an American company.
Okay.
They own NECA, they own WizKids, which owned NECA, so they got it as part of the thing.
Okay.
Whatever AdPop is, and I have zero history knowledge of AdPop, other than they put product through Diamond. They're a big distributor through Diamond and Alliance Games because they own WizKids.
Yeah.
And so, they supply WizKids HeroClix to Alliance Games, and I think you can buy it through Diamond as well.
Okay.
So they've got a relationship with Diamond.
Yes.
They are in the US. They don't know one thing about distributing comic books. And Universal up in Canada, well, they know how to distribute comic books in Canada, and they want Diamond UK so they can have Canada and UK. And they're willing to just let this AdPop company, a toy company, a game company, run the Diamond operations. Well,
that makes just as much sense as a music company doing it.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Those upper management team people, they've dealt with AdPop before. They buy stuff from them. They send stuff back to them. They've got a relationship. If you don't think that if you know how to distribute comic books from that upper management, and all of a sudden these newbies show up saying, well, we'll take over the comic book business, they know a bunch of those guys are still going to get jobs over there at AdPop because they don't know how to do the comic book thing.
Yeah.
Or somebody from Universal will come down and do it.
Yeah, totally. Here's the other thing. I see a lot of like a lot of people are saying that also, Diamond really isn't doing much comics right now, because Lunar and Penguin Random House have really done such a great job distributing Marvel and DC and Image now. IDW's dying on the vine right now as we speak. We still don't really know.
Hold on, okay, let me just pause you. IDW had double bankruptcy prior to COVID. Like they went through 2 rounds of this at their level. So COVID, the PPA loans are the only thing. The PPP loans are the only thing that saved IDW to this point.
Yeah. And right now they're selling off all their stock for buy one, get two free, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I forget what Jesse said, but IDW just opened up all of their artist editions in their warehouse, their personal warehouse in San Diego. They just opened all of that to the retail customer for half off.
Skipping the
retailers
retailer
out completely.
Yeah.
It's a cash grab.
So here's what I'm saying is you really only have a few companies that we're still trying to figure out where they are.
No.
So why even care? I don't even understand why people are like A&T isn't going to care about comics. If they don't, who cares? At this point.
I mean, no, to play
but do you understand where I'm getting at there? Like
you're preaching to the converted,
yeah,
Brian. I'm already singing the praises of Alliance. But I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. The Dynamite level, the Oni level,
yes,
the all of these people level, boom, 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 boom. They all equal less than 1%. When you look at those old pie charts that Diamond used to release, it's the and others that equal maybe 1 to 2% of the industry. For the fans, that's everything.
Yeah.
For those publishers, that's everything.
Yeah.
For the creators that work for them, that's everything. And I'll reiterate it because I said this on this show prior to all of this bankruptcy thing. Diamond was operating last year on 30% of the revenue, money coming in, that they had in 2019. In 2019, they had Marvel, DC, Image, IDW, Dark Horse, Boom, all of it. They operated on 100% of the revenue from 100% of the industry. They lost DC down to 70. They lost Marvel down to 30. They lost Image down to... Dude, what's left is you're going to have to run a diamond on 10, 15% revenue. You can't do that. There will not be a diamond left if that's the way you do it.
Shout out to Alex for the $5 super chat. He says, I think the comment, we're not interested in selling $5 products rings true for AENT. What do you think about that, Dennis?
Well, and I had a long conversation with 3 different small press publishers. The one in particular was Sam.
Sinopa Publishing.
Yeah. Shinobu? Is that how you say
Sinopa.
it? Shinopa. So I said, hey, you have a $5 comic book and you've got it in liquor stores and head shops and, all of this. Could you make a $10 product? Like, could you, he goes, oh, well, yeah, I could take issue 1 and 2 that's about to come out and I could make that and I could make it bigger so that it'd be more appealing at a record store. And I'm like, well, is that something that you think you could do if you wanted to be carried by Alliance? And he was like, absolutely. If that's what I have to do, then I'll do it. And to me, that was the answer. Because guess what? At that point, you have a $10 comic book. And if you have a $3 to $4 cost, you can give AENT $1 and sell it for $5 wholesale to the retailers. And you have $4 to publish it after AENT takes that dollar. And then the retailers carry it at 10.
Yep.
So we have to rethink this. Brian, I know you're just at that age. You remember when CDs first hit, right? When they came in a big box. Are you old enough to remember when CDs came in like a big cardboard box with the CD at the top and dead air at the bottom?
Yeah,
okay.
Totally. That was when CDs first came out. So
people
wouldn't
I
steal
remember the last records were off to the side at the record store. And then CDs came out and you're like, what? Why am I paying $15 for this? The record, I could buy the record for 10. I could buy the closeout record where they took a pair of scissors and cut the corner off and they would sell it for 5 or 2. Why am I paying $15 for this? Because this is a new industry.
Yeah.
This is a new way of doing things, and this is the new way that industry wants to go. We have to get with that picture. And there wasn't one studio, Capitol Record, or what do they call it? Not studio, but what do they call the people that make
distribution?
No, the label. There wasn't one
Record
label that said,
yeah.
Screw $15 CDs. We are going to make $10 CDs, and we're going to keep the price the same as our records. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't one.
Yeah.
Everybody made $15 CDs. Hey guys, $3 indie comics selling 1,000 units through Diamond. That was fun while it lasted. But that killed Diamond as much as $33 million from retailers that didn't pay their bills. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's my answer. I feel bad.
There's a lot of creators, that are going to have to figure out ways to get their product into their fans' hands. And here's the other thing. I see a lot of people talking. I see a couple people talking about I saw Coffin Comics being brought up. Like, why hasn't Coffin Comics knows their market? They know their fans are willing to buy from them specifically. They know that they can crowdfund through their own crowdfunding site. They have built their lane, and their lane is cruising, man. So there's no reason for them to even get to. I mean, they don't mind. They didn't mind having, a couple books out there to send to comic shops, and put in Diamond every once in a while. But that wasn't their main gig. And that is what's a lot of these, semi, I don't know. I don't want to call them small publishers or small creators, but
small press.
people like Coffin Comics or Brian Pulido, those type of creators. That's gonna have to be their lane.
Hey, Bri. We both went to Pulido's Coffin Comics booth at San Diego. We were there together. How many $5 comics did Brian Pulido have at his booth?
I didn't see any. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I wouldn't expect them to be $5 books.
How many Kickstarters does Brian Pulido do for $5 comic books on his new Coffin launch site?
Great point. Yeah. I mean, maybe
because he's elevated his product over 30 years.
Yeah, Big Remo just said it. Exclusivity. Yes. There you go. Yep.
Yeah. That's,
I don't listen. Here's the other thing. None of us want comics to be more expensive, but you just have to be able to play devil's advocate and see where it's coming from. And then you have to say to yourself, what is the common sense way to look at this? Things have changed, man. They've changed. Yeah. Swaggle House says floppies will just be sold, will just be for Kickstarter and shows. Anything distributed will have to be a trade paperback. That's another thing. AENT, that's a nice thing for them to look at and go, hey, we can start sending trade paperbacks straight to Walmart, straight to big stores, straight to where we already have our publishing lanes. And those trade paperbacks will be their $20 plus items. Or even if it's not trade paperbacks, a five comic pack in you could do. That's what creators are going to have to do to get their comics into stores where everything is going. The LCS, the brick and mortar LCS, is falling less and less every year. Retailers are becoming more and more online driven or non brick and mortar retailers. So it's just the way it is. Emmett keeps saying that AENT has no margins. What does he say? What does he mean by that?
He's talking about the profit margins. So for a $5 comic book, let's just say $5 because that's, I think, the common average right now. Even Todd McFarlane's going up to $3.99 now. So that $2.99 Todd McFarlane argument is no longer, there. So, and remind me to tell you a funny story about your glass too.
Oh yeah.
Later. So the margin is if it costs and I'm going to mix up a couple words, but I'm going to try to keep it as open as possible. If it costs $3 or $2.10 to pay your artist, pay your colorist, pay your letterer, pay the printer to make the product, the margin is, if it's $5 comic book and it's sold to retailers at $2.50 or $2.75 if you've only got a 40% discount or whatever that is, the margin is what's left between what it's sold for and what it costs to produce. And Diamond would take a part of that margin, and then the publisher would get the other part of that margin. Okay, so the margin, and I'm going to use some round numbers just to be stupid. If it costs $2 to produce a comic and you sell it for $2.50 wholesale, and Diamond says we get 20% of that, then they're going to take 50 cents, which leaves 50 cents for the publisher to put into their next project or whatever. And whatever they make, and if the orders came in for 3,000 units,
and Alliance doesn't offer that to the publisher, and
well, they're not gonna. They want more than 50 cents.
Yeah,
they're saying we want $1.
Yeah.
So you have to bake in their dollar. Here, look at, and I'll use this as an example, and it's ironic that I'll do this. Bad Idea just distributed their next comic through Lunar.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Planet Death.
So they're selling, and I don't know the price, so don't sue me. They're selling a $3 comic book for 75 cents, and the retailer gets to make way more.
Yeah, whatever they choose to sell it for, they get to make. Yeah, if it's 75
their margin
cents.
is somewhere between 0 and 75. That's where they're going to make all their money off of. Clearly, there's a lot of margins, or this is just another gimmick snake oil salesman scheme, but we'll get to that at another point. And the margin that they're giving retailers is buy this and you're going to make $2.25 an issue off of a 75-cent investment. You're going to triple your money. And that's the margin. Now, Dinesh is a millionaire. Like I said, he burns money. That's great. That's what he can do. Most publishers can't do that. Boom. We talked to both Ross and Philip about when they did that exact same thing for Once and Future, and they lost their asses.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the margin is, and like I said, Bruce said this on our show, we have to make 95 cents if we push your item around our warehouse and sell it. Well, that's him telling you, if you can make the comic for $2 and you're willing to give us 95 cents to distribute it for you, then you better figure out a price that makes you the profit you're happy with. And that's what you're going to put on the cover price. And we're going to sell it at wholesale so that we get our $1, you get your $2 back. You figure out where you want it. Now, maybe you want to make 75 cents an issue, Okay. So $2, $1, 75 cents. That's $3.75 into the cost, distribution, and profit margin. You double that. It's a $7.50 comic. Now, if you can't convince your audience to buy a $7.50 comic, then go someplace else and sell it. Figure out how to sell it. That's all Alliance is saying. So, and I mean, every Kickstarter is a $20 book. Yeah. Every Kickstarter. Yeah. The printing cost is a portion of that, and the profit is a bigger portion. And then Kickstarter takes their percent in the middle. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna send.
I'm sorry, chat. I haven't been reading. I'll try to catch up.
I'm gonna send Emmett the link, so he can explain what, because now he's saying that he doesn't care about their margins. He cares about his margins, which of course I get that. I don't.
Yeah.
I guess I'm getting maybe I'm misunderstanding him. When you say margins, I think profit, I guess. So, all right, here we go. Where is Emmett? There we go. All right.
Get in here, old man.
Swaggle House says, if Diamond is choosing to sell Universal Ad Pop over AENT, that automatically makes me worried about the Universal Ad Pop running the future.
Swag, can you get in here? Because that's the whole point. The people who ran Diamond into the ground, the people who have mismanaged Diamond for the 20 years I've been dealing with them, want Universal Ad Pop. I'm sorry. That disqualifies them immediately for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's part of the lawsuit too, Brian. They're like, look, you didn't really treat us fairly. You wanted somebody else immediately. And when we tried to talk to you after you kind of shut us down. Why do we want to deal with you guys?
Yeah. Here's the other thing. So who would be distributing if Universal Ad Pop won? It would be Ad Pop that would be distributing the comics for Diamond in the US, which usually distributes toys.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think remember, we actually talked about this on the show, and I talked to her about Jesse today. We actually talked about this somewhere in January, because remember the rumor came out that Universal was looking to buy a warehouse in the US. Do you remember when we talked about this, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
And Jesse and I immediately went Rodney Dangerfield, like, oh, you're going to have to grease the palms of the people. And who do you think takes that garbage out? Those people are going to want a little kickback too. You don't just build a warehouse in the US.
Yeah.
And we said it would be smarter for them to just buy Diamond. They already have a warehouse. We thought they were trying to figure out, oh, well, let's go ahead and just move in on that territory. Well, I think they found out, and this is speculation, absolutely speculation. I think they found out how hard it would be for them to open this brand new warehouse and have Universal US and Universal Canada distribute the comic books and buy direct from the publishers so that they wouldn't have to even buy Diamond. And then they were like, okay, well, we got to get somebody. And like I said, total speculation, absolutely allegedly, they got somebody at Diamond that was like, hey, look, why don't you go in with these guys and buy Diamond, and you take UK and you take Alliance Games and let these guys run the comic division down here in the US for you, and we'll pop over and we'll help them out, and you can give us a job. We'll take a pay cut even. And I think to me, that seems to be what the filings are hinting at, but they probably don't have any evidence of this because, obviously you pick up a phone call and you do that. How's it going, Emmett?
What's going on, Dennis? How you doing, brother?
The Chinese have a proverb: may you live in interesting times.
Oh, amen. Yeah, so I immediately signed up to get an AENT account.
Yep.
They sent me, so you have to do $1,000 opening thing. So I'm trying to go through. It's a massive catalog, by the way. The only thing is they keep everything on there, even if it's not in stock. So you're running through it. The system's not great. $1,000 on a small shop. I mean, I can do it as an opening. But the vinyls, there's no room in vinyls, dude. $38 to make $6. I got to put $38 out.
Here's the thing, actually, Emmett, that is the industry standard for that.
Yeah, but not in toys. I mean, like I made a ton of money through Diamond on toys, and like where I used to get McFarlane's for like 14 or even 10, and they're 18, and I get to make $4 on a toy. It's not worth it for me to put out 18 to wait to make $4. They're just not there. Like most of their stuff was just, are these like the albums to maybe create traffic into my shop? That's the only thing I see that would do is if I have new albums every Thursday, it's to get people in the shop, but it's not really making me any money unless I get to do what Jesse says is sell them something different or something extra, because the $6 is not worth, like if I have to put out $1,000 right in the initial order and I'm only making 12%, I get to make $120 on $1,000. That's no way to stay in business.
Jesse, can you, I know you don't know specifically, but you do know the corporate world, and that's what I'm looking for. To me, and those margins are very similar to what some margins are on Diamond products at the back end of that catalog. Right. I bought some DVDs from them at one time, and the margins were super slim on those DVDs. The record industry, the DVD industry, and the video game industry, and definitely Lego as well, because they did sell Lego through Diamond, and they had zero margins on that as well.
Yeah.
Those are low margin items that are comparable with what those same margins are at the corporate world.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of strange. I want to say something real fast. If you then go to the hospital, this is not the right gear to wear. Just, I know that doesn't get weird, but people are like, you probably shouldn't be wearing Coffin Comics. I'm like, well, I didn't realize it and all that. So anyways, everything's good there.
Shout out to Sworn Nation.
Good.
Yeah, so margins are kind of funny. So in the corporate world, everything's Keystone, and Keystone is $1 plus 100%. So if you spend $1, you got to get $1 back. Anything else is not acceptable if you're in the Keystone world. So if you want $2 back, it's Keystone plus 200%. But the standard is Keystone. So if you pay $1, it's got to be $2. When you get into less margins, like what Emmett is saying, then what that becomes is a loss leader sell. And that's kind of like the candy bar at the register. Snickers knows that if they don't put the candy bar at the register, they're then sell it for $1.49 or $2, and they're then make $1. But if they put it against the register, they're only then make 50 cents. And so is it worth it to have the new Iron Maiden CD at your counter because a new Iron Maiden book came out? Absolutely.
And
right?
Will you sell 10 vintage Iron Maiden albums because you drew that customer in with the new product?
Right, exactly. So that's kind of what you're looking for. I actually have a great example. Let me show you a great
example. I'll go one more example. So I buy all my candy from a place called Capital Sales. When I'm in there, I buy enough of these cigars that I'll buy the box. The box is 88 cents per pack, and the retail price is stamped on it. Arizona iced tea, the one that you pick up in your grocery store for 99 cents. They haven't changed their price despite all of the inflation, etc. The margin on that is 20 cents.
Yep.
Well, that's actually not even terrible. It, like, to put out 79 cents to make 20 cents. Okay, it's putting out $38 to make $6. And then if it doesn't, right, and then if it doesn't sell when I have to put it on sale, what am I making then? I can't do 50% off.
But that's Walmart's entire philosophy. If you ever go down the clearance aisle at Walmart, so and this is the mentality of some comic shops that I think have the wrong mentality. If you buy 100 of an item, and let's just say you have an 80% sell through, and let's just say you have, I'm going to use a slightly bigger margin, Emmett, but it works for this example. And you have a 15% profit margin. Oh no, you know what? Actually, let me just make it even cleaner. You have a 20% profit margin on those 100 items. That means you paid 80 for those 100 items. And if you sell those 80, you're going to make $20. But you sell 80 and the last 20 are sitting there. Well, I've made my money back. Can I
anything I make on them is gravy. So even if 50%,
exactly. And that's the mentality of Walmart. That's the mentality of the big world.
But as his distributor, there was nothing there. I couldn't find items where I could make a good enough margin where I could buy $1,000 worth of stuff and 50% of it I'll make my margin on, and the other 50% is a loss leader to bring people in. It
Right.
was all tiny margins. They had a very small amount of clearance items that really Diamond's clearances were way better.
Oh yeah, by far. Yeah, and when you get into those, keep in mind you guys are forgetting the basic part about it's sell through, turn rate,
Yeah.
and your bottom lines. That's
Right.
the 3 stages you go through. So if you're turning a ton of stuff, then that's fine that your margins are lower because you're turning a whole bunch of stuff. Here's a prime
You're
example.
getting it through volume.
Right, exactly. So I'm in these Ric Flair books, right? Not a lot, right? But I'm in these Ric Flair books. And I know if I want to sell a lot of these, I can do one thing. I can sell these and make some kind of good margins, or I can sell this and you're then get this awesome Ric Flair action figure with brand new robe and microphone. And guess what? I'm going to sell it for double the price now.
You mean available at Ollie's for $3.99 in giant
Whatever it is. Yeah. You're not supposed to say that during
I'm
the
sorry.
live show. What
sorry,
the
Jesse.
hell is going on here? Holy cow. Trade secrets out the door. Let me tell you where Dennis gets his toilet paper from and how much he pays for it. So anyways, the whole point is you add something, you accessorize it, and that's how you make your money. So the notion is that if you buy something with a low margin, if you just sell that item, then you're going to make them low margin. So you got to accessorize around that product, and that's the whole point.
You're talking about Ric Flair right there? Bam.
Yep.
Yeah, we do a lot of that, and I sell runs, right? So if I want to get $50 for a $50 book, I might put the story arc with it for the $50, and then I get, but I didn't pay $50 for the $50 book.
It's just
it helps sell the $50 book.
I'm gonna be. I know this is gonna be a shock for the audience and for the show, guys. I'm gonna be a dick for a second.
Shocked.
I'm waiting for everybody to process that.
Yeah.
If the industry was doing so healthy, we wouldn't have $39 million in retailer arrears. Diamond would not be $30 million in the hole. Okay. Both of those.
I think people got addicted to that. I don't think they.
What I'm saying is
they just never paid.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that. They couldn't sell the books. They couldn't get that 100% margin. That that buy it for 2, sell it for 4, and they were overbuying to get a variant that didn't sell. They were buying 26 variants of Vampirella number 3 to support Nikki because Nikki's a great guy. They were overbuying, and at some point, the piper had to get paid. And that's where we're at now. Let's not talk about a world where everybody sold every comic book they ever had and no pull ever stiffed them, and they never had to pay Diamond in arrears, and they never had to go 30 days, 60 day, 90 day. Oops. You know what I'm saying? We're out of that world. We're in a new world. And the way I look at it is Alliance is going to put us into a new world. Yeah, maybe it's a 6% world. Maybe it's a 12% world. Maybe they come up with some products to sell to us at a higher profit margin. I don't know. But the NECA toy guys selling the same shit with the same mentality that put us in this position.
I want to talk about that for a second because Billy, shout out to Billy at Economics and Comics, who I hear this the most from. At this point, there's so many retailers out there that are so tired of getting damaged books, late books, overcharged by Diamond that they just want something different that's going to do what they said they were going to do. So if Alliance comes in and says, this is what we're going to do, and they do it, it's a win. Rather than somebody coming in and saying, this is what we're going to do, and not doing it. And no matter what, it was impossible to hear people going a decent amount of time period without getting damaged books from Diamonds, without getting their product isn't the amount of product they're supposed to get, allocated product, all this stuff. Just do what you say you're going to do, and that's already better than Diamond. And they just want something different. If you have these people that are like, and I'm, again, everybody, you guys know this, I am the dumb guy on the show. That's why I'm here, to ask these dumb questions and bring up these dumb points, so so these guys can tell me about it. If there are companies that have been like this with Diamond over the years, they're part of the problem for some of these retailers. And they don't want to, they want somebody new in there that's going to fix the problems they've been having also and make money with them.
I'm not going to mention the publisher, but it'll be obvious. I bought several hundred copies of a giant IP book starring Keanu Reeves. And I was totally behind this book. I contacted the publisher, said, I want to do a variant for issue 2. I love this. Actually, I wanted to do number 1, but number 1 was already in the circuit and I couldn't do it. They said, we can put you in for 2. And then for the next 9 to 10 months, issue 2 was on FOC every week with all of the variants. They had the variant covers done. They didn't have the book done. And month after month after month, I sold, I think, between 80 and 90 copies of issue number 1. So I thought that was a huge success, especially for this publisher, for me. And issue 2 never came. And then when it finally came, I sold 15. Because 70 of those customers said,
too long.
It took too long.
Yeah. That's every book that's been postponed or not made it on time. Sure. Saga's numbers dropped off, and Saga is probably one of the best written books that's ever been out.
Well, Emmett, were you around when Grant Morrison was writing Batman?
Yeah.
And then he took that 6-month hiatus where James Robinson came in and wrote some side stories that didn't matter. And then Grant Morrison's back. Everybody buy it huge. Grant Morrison's back. And then he released a prose book where it was like a couple pictures and mostly words.
Yeah.
And that book just, it torpedoed into the ground.
Yep. A couple things. So number one, Emmett, what happens if you miss a day on your lunar invoice?
I mean, if I miss
what happens? They shut off your account, right? What happens on Penguin if you miss a day on your invoice? They shut off your account.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you mean don't pay?
Yeah. If you don't pay, they shut off your account. Yeah. So Alliance, that's their first goal, is to say, where's your credit card? Put it on file, because we ain't chasing you, and
no
you
free
ain't
lunch
chasing us. Exactly. That's the first thing. That's the other thing is customers are, and this is then kind of sounds strange when I say it. Customers do their comics 1, 2, 3, 4, and if it's a 5th month, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if week 2 is number Batman, every week 2 they're expecting a Batman. And if week 2 Batman comes in week 4, they are done. They're out. They're out of the cycle. They can't fan them that way. That's why books are spread out over 4 weeks, so people could absorb that many books coming out at once.
Actually, and let me talk about one more topic. And Billy, it's a little different, I think, for Billy, because he has his setup directly to the customer. They have an agreement. But Jesse and Emmett and I can attest to this. You get into that Diamond Previews catalog, and it says, these 20 books are coming out this week, and these 20 books are coming out this week, and these 20 books are coming out this week, and these 20 books are coming out this week. And you order what you're going to order for all of those 4 weeks of the comic books. And 5 of those get pushed back a week. So now you got 25 coming in here. And then 10 of those get pushed back a week. And now you got 30 coming in here. And then 10 of those get pushed back to week 4. And then all of a sudden, you've got 40 books showing up on a week that you didn't expect. And then you had less books here and less books here and less books here to make your nut to pay for those 40 books that all drop on your doorstep at the end of the month when the rent's due and the power's due and the cable's due, everything's due, and 40 books show up and your bill is twice as big as the previous 3 weeks.
Well, let me add on to that. The customer's bill is now.
Yeah.
And they have to start making Sophie's choice as to what books they're going to pick up. And maybe they wanted that new book by Brian K. Vaughan, but they have to get this, and they have to get this, and they have to get this, and they only have this much money. One or two of those books that dropped in that 40 book are going to get pushed off to the side, and they're not going to get bought. Even though the sales numbers were there for you to order it, the customers said they were going to want it, but when they have to do that, this was something that was taught to me in 3rd grade basic economics. In the 3rd grade, I took a class, and there's one phrase, and I guarantee you all of these guys know. I don't know if you know it, Brian. Do you want to take a guess of what that 2-word phrase is? Opportunity cost. They taught that to me in the 3rd grade. I have always had that in my brain. The customer has the opportunity cost to buy what they're going to buy. You have to put it in front of them and hope that you get the opportunity cost of them buying what that is.
Yep.
When you give them 40 different opportunities, and they only have 2 to choose from because that's how much money is in their pocket, you're only selling 2 of those books.
Yeah, but what I was talking with the AENT is that if they took over comics and if they decided to do it, it might be that the companies say, "Oh, all right, well, here's how you're going to make your dollar. Instead of giving 50% to the retailer, or even 40%, some are down to 40% now.
You're at 35 for DC.
I'm at 35 for DC. They say, look, the retailers only need to make 30%. So you take all the way up to 30%, whatever, and then just ship them books. So a lot of us that give our subscribers 15% off for subscribing,
stop that.
That'll be gone.
Yeah.
Look at Midtown Online. They do 30% for online subscribers. If you subscribe for a year or whatever, you get 30% off. So, I mean, it's almost worth it to get
Lunar's parent company, Discount Comic Book Service, offers 35, Emmett.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah, but here's the problem. This is why comics fail. First of all, economics said, why would you miss a day in invoices? I'll give you 32 million reasons why you would miss a day in invoices. So there's your answer to that. The second thing is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we talk about. My challenge to everybody is to walk into your store the following Tuesday after the book comes out and see how many copies they still have left on the shelves. Comic book store owners suck when it comes to how to order, how to sell out. For some reason, we are so afraid to have empty shelves. It is mind-boggling. I would prefer empty shelves by next Monday. There you go. What are you showing there?
I don't know what you're showing.
It's hard to see, but it is the Nintendo World Championship 1990. I took it in 3 days ago.
Nice.
That is sold graded at Heritage for $79,000.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So that comic books are no longer my. I love them to death. I will always carry them, but they are no longer.
Here's my thought process, and I know one of the big points of contention over whether comics is dying is new issues, right? And new issues getting distributed to quote unquote retailers, because my thought process is that I think that's over. I feel like the way it's going to work in the future is, for the most part, new issues are going to be distributed straight to the buyer from the publisher, and then those books will be traded into comic book shops and retailers and get funneled through there. So not only will comic shops not carry new issues anymore, they will be forced to be like we've been talking about for a while, to be a collectible shop or a pop culture shop where collections come in. That's how they get their inventory for the most part, is through collections, whether coming in or you going out there and finding them at estate sales or other places to get cheap inventory. You're forced to find that inventory rather than the publisher getting the inventory to you. The publisher is going to get it straight into the hands of the consumer nowadays.
Sure.
So I feel like at some point we're just going to have to understand that is the future also.
It'd be part of the future. Hand selling books is big. I mean, anybody that has a shop hand sells books, and a lot of times you'll see books that nobody would ever think would be any big blow up because, comic shop says you should probably read this. It's really good, and it comes out of nowhere, and it's a big success.
Billy brings up a great point then. He said, Brian, if they did, the shipping would be outrageous. They need the stores to take care of the majority of the shipping costs. And that's true too. I mean,
days, but most companies are very smart now. They do offer 30-day shipping, 20 days. They'll hold your product until the end of the month.
It could all just sell through Amazon.
Yeah, you can go through.
Well, let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla. I just said it to Billy in the chat. Penguin gives free shipping, 50% off, and has terms.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Shipping is the cost of doing business. And as a consumer, it's also a cost of being able to not have to drive to a store. Listen, I'm all for driving to a store. Don't get me wrong, but there's a convenience factor to it, right? And so people are then justify, okay, is it worth me going to the store, finding a parking spot? I got to talk to that weird guy, Dennis, at the store who's going to talk to me for 30 minutes about, Ric Flair action figures for $3.99, or can I just get home and have it in my box? I have no idea how they're going to ship it. Well, I guess they could Gemini ship it and go from there. So cost of doing business, I think, for a retailer is the same as a consumer. It's time orientated. Does it save them time? There are people that I have sold to for 20 plus years. And in 20 years, my conversations, if I minus out the hello, thank you, is maybe 5 minutes in 20 years. There are people that come in and out. And it's almost like, I wish there was a better way to do this. So you got to look at both ways. I think that's the way you look at it. If you look at it both ways, why can't you do both?
So
okay,
for me,
Billy said he was talking about something else, not about shipping from the distributors. Okay.
For me, the new books though is basically creates traffic. For however many subscribers you have, if they all show up every week, then you have that number usually times 40. So it's $2,000 a week, but that opportunity is not all new books. They're buying old books. They're buying other things, candy and whatever. Sure. It's traffic building. For new books build traffic for me because I don't have anything else that brings traffic in other than reputation.
But can't you do that on your eBay show? Can't you do that on you don't do live streaming, but if you could accessorize. Absolutely. Yeah, hey, by the way, I saw you bought this book. I do have 2 through 10. Do you want the whole set? If you're live streaming, oh, by the way, I have the variant to it. Oh, by the way, if you're live streaming, you buy on my auction. Anything you buy on the Buy It Now is free shipping. So I think we should always be upselling no matter what platform it's on.
Absolutely.
Right. So
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Things have just changed so quickly since pandemic. That have just forced so much stuff to change so quickly that it's like we're in an aquarium and we just added a ton of new coral and animals and everything and sand. You got to wait for everything to kind of settle in and settle down before it starts getting clearer, and that takes time.
Can I bring this up? So I was talking to somebody and they were like, man, I wish I could put my finger on the moment everything went south. Like, when did the flat tire pop? And I think I got it, guys. And tell me if you think I'm right or wrong, Emmett, especially because, Jesse, you weren't doing new books. There was 1 week back September or October and you'd have to look this up, where Dan DiDio got fired from DC and Pam Lilford was announced as the new president of DC, and Jim Lee kind of got pushed off to the side. Do you guys remember this?
Yeah.
And the week that came out was the week that Bat Penis came out. No, seriously.
Yeah.
Because Pam
funny
Lilford,
when you say it.
Yeah.
and by all, I've talked to people in sales, I've talked to people in editorial, and I've talked to people who were actually on the art team for that book. She lost her shit that Batman had a penis and they had it in a DC adult ages comic book. And that, I think, was the puncture of that tire at DC. And now cut to 5 months later, 6 months later, the pandemic hits.
Yeah. I thought it was funny. No, go ahead.
And what?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
And Steve Geppi says, hey guys, we're going to shut the warehouses down. We're not going to have a super spreader event with, all of our employees packing boxes. We're not going to have a super spreader event at our offices. All those people can work from home. And there's going to be no comics until we feel it's safe to have new comics. And DC, the new DC, the non-Dan DiDio DC, the we don't want Bat Penis DC, said, we're giving you this one chance to renegotiate or we're going someplace else. And Diamond made the decision to not renegotiate with DC at that time. So DC walked. Whoever's fault it is, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what the deal was or the renegotiation was. But I don't think Dan DiDio's DC would have jumped over to Lunar and Discount Comic Book Service. I don't think so.
I thought you were going to say Convergence, but I mean, that's...
No. You know what? Books still sold after Convergence. We had
that was
Jeff
such
John's
a garbage.
Three Jokers.
Oh,
yeah.
Those variants.
Convergence only existed to give all the people from New York time to move out to LA. That was all Convergence was. And actually, Rich Johnson broke that story that they were going to come up with this bullshit side hustle to tide everyone over so they could have all the staff move out to LA. But
that for me was when Marvel and DC moved out to LA was the death of comics.
Marvel's not in LA.
They're not in Manhattan.
Well, they shut down the offices at COVID and they do everything remotely now.
But they were out of Manhattan before COVID. They left a long time ago. They left.
No. Marvel was still. Trust me, I know. Marvel's offices closed right when COVID closed. They were still getting all of the stuff shipped to the Marvel Manhattan office.
Okay.
Shout out to my boy Alex, who has gifted 20 memberships on the show already. You're the best, brother. Appreciate all you guys that have been gifting memberships and that have been dropping super chats and supporting the channel. It's been amazing lately. Shout out to all the new subscribers. You guys are amazing. And if you're one of the viewers tonight, the 120 viewers, out of those 120 viewers, 31 of you have hit the like button. Thank you to those people. For 32. Everybody else, 32. Hit that fucking like button.
Yeah,
to the ones that didn't, right here.
Smash that button.
Right here. I shut my TV off before I could like it.
Okay. So let's get back into the whole story. So we got all this that's been going on. AENT, again, to remind everybody, AENT puts in a bid. They're the highest bidder. The judge has to go agree to it. The judge at some point says, hold on here. There's something I need to take a longer look at. Delays his ruling a couple days. At that point, the new bidders come in and say, we're going to put in our own bid. We're going to team up two companies in order to put in a bid big enough that we think that Diamond will accept. even though it was lower than AENT's initial bid, Diamond accepted the Ampop and Universal bid. Where are we now? Has the judge come out and said everything now is up in the air?
No. So where we're at is a very simple thing. Once Alliance started the lawsuit, they have to start renegotiating from there. The lawsuit to Diamond is the lawsuit to Diamond. The lawsuit to Alliance and Pop has nothing to do with that lawsuit. That's completely separate. So what they have to do is they have to come to a resolve by May 28th. All right. May 28th is the deadline. Now, something can happen tomorrow, but May 28th, there has to be a final ruling. And most likely the final ruling will go back to who has the highest bid. If I go to court on a bankruptcy and someone comes up to me and bids, I can't say to him, what are you going to do after day one? I have to say, okay, you're the highest bid. Good luck. If Brian decides to shut down the business the next day and never do that, that's up to Brian. That should not be up to employees, owners, nothing.
Well, let me ask you something then. Does Diamond, the owners of Diamond, have any say in the matter?
In a bankruptcy where it's at auction?
Yeah.
So if the judge puts the auction up and approves the auction, then technically they don't. All right. But in this case, they have found a loophole somewhere where we're not seeing this loophole. There's a loophole somewhere in the courts of Maryland that's saying that someone can come in and do XYZ, even though you have a final bid. So it doesn't matter if that second person's game plan is better.
Yeah.
It could be the best game plan in the world. Then you should bid more at that time.
The lawyers handling the bankruptcy and the judge presiding for the state have one job: figure out how to get Diamond out of bankruptcy.
Get the creditors paid.
Yep.
Get all these people that are owed money paid the most amount of money. Now, if Diamond didn't have Alliance Games, the bids would be 20 million and Diamond owed 39, and it would have gone for probably $20 million. And every single one of those creditors would have gotten less than half of what they were owed. We just happened to be in a unique situation where one of Diamond's components was worth fighting over, was worth paying premium amounts of money for. And all these bidders knew that. And it just happens to cover all the debt plus extra. I think that the lawyer handling it and the judge handling it are going to go, I don't care who's getting a cushy job at the new company that bid less. I don't care if $5 comic book creators don't think that they'll be able to go to A&T and sell comic books. I need to make sure we get the maximum amount of money to pay off all this debt.
Yep.
Well, it's not the maximum amount of money. It's the money that pays off the debt. This might be the trick in it, is that the $69 million pays all their creditors, and it leaves pieces like Overstreet Gem Publishing in place for under the Jeppy company. And the other companies decide to take these pieces and it pays off all the creditors. It may be at their choice. So like in some states, when you're auctioning off storage units, if it goes for more than they owe, all that money more than it owes goes to the person who owns
it's everywhere. Unit. That's right. Everywhere. And that's basically
it's not everywhere. Auction. It's not everywhere because there's a lot of places that there's been
in Michigan, that's what happens as well.
Okay. In New York, it's not. It all goes to whoever had it, because they become, in New York, you end up owning all that stuff. Yeah. So you're not auctioning somebody else's stuff, you're auctioning your stuff.
And in a different way, it's actually not nobody knows what that amount is. If you
Right.
owe 6 months storage and then they sell your storage, it's 360. The people selling it know it's 360, but the people bidding have no clue
idea.
it's 360.
No clue. Yeah. Yeah. So, and there was a lot of scamming going on down in states that did that, where people were putting empty boxes of high-end collectibles and setting it up and then not paying their thing. And then, because some storage units now are going for insane money, 10 grand, and they owed $360, and they're getting, big money. So in that is, maybe there's somewhere in there that the 69
and sometimes
billion,
the storage units do it, Emmett, because I got burned.
100%.
I got burned with one. All of the plastic totes said DVDs, movies, video games, and when
All
I
in
opened
one.
it, all Christmas decorations.
Wilbert, shout out to Wilbert, one of our longtime community members, has a great comment. He says, "No, the people running the bidding change the rules. There are no lawyers from the state. There's a trustee. There's a turnaround company involved. There's a creditors' council of the top 20 creditors." I've never heard that. That's the first time I've heard that. Is that true?
No, that is not correct. That's completely incorrect, because the trustee does not have anything to say with the final bidding. The trustee is in charge of making sure that the bills that are to be paid are paid every single week. That's why the trustee filed a complaint against Diamond for spending to paying out bonuses. The trustee has nothing to do with that final bid.
Bonuses to those upper management people.
Exactly. Yeah. Trustee is, let's put it this way. Trustee is your bartender, right? He needs to be your best friend.
So Wilbert is saying the trustee objected.
The trustee objected to the bonuses.
To the bonuses. Okay.
Yeah. To the bonuses. Yeah. He filed
How do you get a bonus when you're $39 million?
Right. Exactly. Well, again, if you want to pay out people in bonuses, your trustee sits down with you before the bankruptcy begins and says, show me your payouts you're going to do, and I will tell you what is going to be approved every single week. But if you say, I'm going to pay Brian every single week, and you double pay Brian, you can't do that.
Right. And on top of that, the trustee is there to make sure John Smith, the CFO, doesn't pay Sally Smith, his wife, a consulting fee of $10,000 while they're in bankruptcy.
Right. So that's the trustee
pushing money around. That's what the trustee is there. Yes, garbage bill needs to get paid, or garbage starts backing up.
Exactly.
Kilted Corgi says, good execs get bonuses on the way out.
Yep. Oh yeah. They put that in with the trustee, and they say, hey, I got this bonus coming up. So
yeah, I would give them all a set of steak knives and tell them they came in second.
Right. Exactly. So it's very, and see, that's, I think, very important and Wilbur, this isn't, I'm not saying this against you. What I'm saying is we need to educate ourselves on where this is happening and not think that, hey, if this happens in Arizona, well, then it happens nationally. It does not. Every state has its own rulings. But I can tell you the trustee itself, that's your best friend. That's the only friend you have in the courts.
Jesse and Emmett, I wanted to ask you guys some questions. And Jesse, I'm sorry for the situation that you were going through, but I'm glad you're here because I wanted to ask you about this.
No problem.
So I went to Google and I found the list of upper management at Diamond. And I would love to I'm going to list off these guys. And I want to know if Jesse, 30-year retailer, 40-year selling comics, and Emmett, you're in at what, 15 years now?
Just under.
Yeah. Right. CEO, Steve Jeppy. Emmett, you've met Steve, right?
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah. Yes.
Steve, one of the best. Chuck Parker, Executive Vice President and COO. Have you ever met Chuck?
Nope.
No.
He's the big guy. He's the one under Steve. I met him one time, and it was by accident that I went over and said hi to somebody I knew, and they introduced me, and I'm like, oh, wow, okay, cool. How long you been here? 30 years. Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah. Awesome. Larry Swanson, the CFO. Now, I don't expect to have ever met him. He probably sits in an office and does all that. So, but Larry Swanson, never heard his name before in my life until today when I Googled who is the upper management at Diamond. Sean Hamrick. Now, when I found out who Sean was, I was like, oh, actually, I should have probably known Sean, but there was never a statement like, hey, this guy's in charge, blah, 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 blah. Do you know what Sean Hamrick does at Diamond?
Is he the toy guy?
No.
He is in charge of the Olive Branch warehouse. He took over for Werzer, who took over for Cindy over the last 10 years. So they've gone through 3 different warehouse managers in the last 10 years, and he's the current warehouse manager of Olive Branch. Never heard his name. Don't know who he is.
I thought he was around that Vegas retailers.
Okay.
I don't think he was in charge of the warehouse at the time.
I think he was probably in charge of that $10 million restructuring of the warehouse that they were bragging about at one Vegas retailer summit that didn't ever pan out. Okay. Then we've got Tim Lanahan. Does anybody know who Tim Lanahan is?
Mm-hmm. Nope.
He took over what Bill Sheenis used to do. He's in charge of purchasing the retailer board. He's the one that gets to pick and choose everything that goes in the Diamond Previews catalog. Never met him, never talked to him, don't even know who he is. Then I'm Chris Powell.
I don't remember a Chris Powell.
Chris Powell is vice president of retailer services.
Go ahead. I'm just talking. Someone's talking shit about spam. So hold on one second. Go ahead.
Yeah. The vice president of retailer services. You would think all 3
would know every retailers. Yeah.
Now, I know who Chris Powell is. Jesse, I'm pretty sure you know who Chris Powell is.
Yeah, I know who Chris Powell is.
Yeah. He's in charge of the retailers. Now, I'll give you some background information. And I'm pretty sure, allegedly, Chris Powell is the one that made the deal with Hastings that ended up costing Diamond between $2 and $5 million when they went bankrupt. I'm pretty sure he's probably responsible for allowing the same person that cost them that to also be in debt right now with Diamond. I'm not going to say the name. Chris Powell. Then we've got Mike Schimmel, who I've actually met.
Right. Yeah. Mike's
several times. Mike's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's kind of, I would say he's one of the working men on the suit and tie department. He's the director of sales for Diamond Comics.
I have met him.
He basically took over. So when Roger Fletcher, who was, I think, one of the best upper management people, he would get down in the grotto and talk to retailers like Jesse and I. One of the best guys ever until I pissed him off several times at retailer summits. And apparently he still liked me. He actually, when he insulted me one time, he said, I will tell you this, you're one of the best fathers I've ever seen, but man, you're a fucking asshole. Okay. But when Roger retired, they split his job into 2, kind of, and got Chris Powell and Schimmel to take over his jobs, which is good. Like I said, those are the only 2 I met, and at least one of them I think does his job. But that's who. I mean, there's one other person, Kathy Govier, and she's in charge of marketing. So I don't hold any of this against her, per se. But all of these guys make up that upper management team. They're the ones that wanted to get bonuses. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we don't know that. I mean, the Jeppies, could have said, hey, we want to make sure these guys who have been with us for a long time, that means something to us, get something. So we don't know if they were the ones that were, we don't know that. So, but I understand what you're saying, that there are these people that in upper management that, you know, there have been talks and rumors and things behind the scenes that a lot of people feel like it was the upper management that kind of made some bad decisions in the last 10 years that have caused this. I, I truly, I don't think we know that. You know what I mean? Like,
well, the biggest concern is this. When they did the bankruptcy, they got their trustee and they said, trustee, you got to April 1st to get all these bills done. Make sure everything gets paid. Well, guess what? We're on April 8th. Where's this money coming from? We're then go to May 28th. Where is this money coming from? That is, I think, the biggest question that we have is how does Diamond even function going forward? And maybe those payouts and bonuses might have had to wait a little bit.
So maybe that you're thinking that was the delay that caused the delay.
I got a call from Diamond today, and they said, you didn't place your initial order. It's past the date. Did you want to order? I'm like, I didn't know you guys would be open. And she goes, neither did we.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I've had multiple retailers mention to me that they've heard the same thing. They've called Diamond and, you know, asked questions. And one of the interesting things that I've been hearing is that even if AENT or Universal and AdPop end up winning out, that the FOC orders that have been made in the last couple of FOC orders, they might not ever get fulfilled by Diamond. AENT can say, we're not going to fulfill those, and they don't have to fulfill them.
No, exactly. No.
So even if you're a shop and you have FO and you're banking on your FOC orders from Diamond, don't. It's not smart to do that at this point.
No, you got to take your safe money and keep it in hand right now. And I say that with all due deference to all the people who are still at Diamond, who still need Diamond, etc. You can't cast that money to the wind. But the flip side to that is if you commit to buying books right now, and let's just say Alliance takes a 2-month off to see what it is, but they still want those orders fulfilled, they might hit you with all those orders in 1 week.
Right.
Because you're still committed to those orders. That's a contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a one-way contract.
Right. No, it is. Yeah.
Well, you can do the restock fee, which is 15%.
But they could not send them to me, and they don't have any, they don't have to send them to me.
Right.
But because I've committed to them, I have to take them. So
yeah.
But that's part of doing business.
Exactly. Yeah.
When a major corporation goes bankrupt, and Jesse, you can explain this better than I can, but let's just take Big Lots, for instance. Big Lots just closed all these different places. Every one of them had a lease. Every one of them had,
everything,
commitments,
insurance,
bills, everything. So when the bankruptcy happens, all of that stuff gets pulled into the bankruptcy, the leases and all of that. That's all part of the who do we owe money to. And maybe the complex that you're renting and you've still got 3 more years of lease, they'll say, look, give us a year and give us a year's worth of rent and we'll let you break the contract, or they might be hard asses and say, we want all 3 years. We calculated for those 3 years. And then that gets settled out with how much money comes at the end of the bankruptcy. And then in come the trustees and in come the salespeople. And they sell off all the stuff in all the stores, including the showcases and the shopping carts and everything. And whatever money gets split between all of those creditors, all those contracts that Big Lots had going into that bankruptcy, they're in the wind as well. When it goes bankrupt, they don't have to honor any of that stuff. It's all stopped. It's all dead in the water unless you put your money or you put your info into the bankruptcy and said, hey, Big Lots owes me money. Give me my money. And then the second they came out on the other side, what's the first thing they did, Jesse?
Yeah. Well, what you're talking about with Big Lots?
Yeah.
Oh, Big Lots is awesome. I think Big Lots
Opened a new store.
Yeah, they announced 40 new stores.
Yeah, 40 new stores, 9 new stores open
40
up
new
next month.
contracts, everything.
Now, the important thing is when we're talking about bankruptcy, especially business bankruptcies, is there's BK7, there's BK11. BK11 is restructuring. So you're going to restructure your business so that in the future, you can still stay in business, whether it's with new owners or old owners. In this case, it's new owners, right? And so what Big Lot did was they said, let's sell everything. They had amazing sales every single week. And they really, as the store shrunk, right? Instead of leaving it all open, they just kept on shrinking it, compact, shrinking it, compact, shrinking it, compact, which is a great way to sell. And at the end, not only did they do well, the new owners said, we did so well that we're going to re-sign 40 new leases someplace else, not with the existing places, because bankruptcy allows you to get out of those leases. Those people can try to get the money, but the chances of you getting paid and it's then be depreciated funds that are then be paid to you as far as landlords go. So if you owe $100,000, it might be $500 a month until it's paid off, right? It doesn't really, it's a little bit different when it comes to leases and all that. So
Big Lots changed their business model though, which really killed them.
Yeah, and the new owners said, we're not going to do this and we're not going to do this. But
I think the furniture killed them. I think the furniture is what really killed Big Lots.
Because it was such poor quality. It had a good look, but it was really bad quality.
Shit. It made them have twice the retail space that they needed to do what they did. If they had just gotten a couple couches every season and just kept it on the floor between no Christmas and no,
right.
That might have been a better. I don't know. I don't own Big Lots.
They stopped doing a lot of the clearance. They weren't buying clearance from other places. They started purchasing new direct,
right,
for their own sales, and it changed their margin. It changed their whole business, and a lot of people, if you didn't like the new furniture, the styles that they picked, it sat, and they're losing money on it. So, I mean, there's sometimes when people pivot to the wrong thing. They can pivot right into a sand pit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very, very interesting if you get people who are empowered to do better and find ways to say, listen, this is what they did wrong. We're going to fix this, and this is how we're going to do it going forward. I think that's a great way to do it. I think what we're facing here is it's wholesale. It's time driven. It's not selling today what you got. And if you still got it, sell it again tomorrow at XYZ to the customer base, or have coupons and do this and double days, BOGOs, all this fun stuff that you get points, right? And so we're in a different world of this bankruptcy where it's technically, until day one comes, you technically can't do anything.
Right.
Because your game plan is, do you have the same employees or do you need those employees?
Yeah. Well, and it's not just that, Jesse. I mean, I gave you the 100%, 70%, 30% image is gone to a new place. There's another 10%. The longer we wait, if we wait 2 more months, that percentage keeps shrinking. And who's left? And I don't think that there's enough left to even be a diamond anymore, guys. I really don't.
Well, and that's what my question has always been. If you're talking about the comic book world, other than Dynamite, who are you talking about? You're talking about small press. Small press, the smart, aggressive person is out there selling books and not even thinking of freaking diamond. They're saying, how do I sell one more book to one more person? That's all they're thinking about.
I had a kid, and I apologize because I can't remember his comic book's name. He cold called us. He came into the store and he cold called us, and he's like, "Look, I'm going to draw. I want to put comics on your wall. I would love to be carried in your store. This is how much my margin is. Can I leave 3 of each of my issues? I think he has 2 issues or 3. I apologize. Like I said, my manager handled it. I didn't. He wanted to be there. I said, make sure you tag that we have the books. Oh yeah, absolutely. He's not in Diamond. That's his own book. He came and cold called me.
Yeah.
I have an entire shelf of self-published books. If you self-publish your book, I buy it. I will not consign it. I don't have time to track your sales.
No, forget about that.
I will buy them, and it's up to me to sell them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and another guy, Hero Berg, actually called me and he sold me on it.
I have his book. Yeah,
he's awesome.
But he calls everybody.
Yeah,
because he's out there hustling.
Yeah, and he makes like a television show for the
comic. What I would suggest to you, Emmett, is don't put those independents, small press in the same area. Put them on your new issue wall, because they're actually technically always new issues. It is amazing how many of those I sell. To people out there who have a book, don't consign your books. No, get paid for your books, right? Because the person that pays for a book has to sell the book.
The other thing is, if they won't pay Diamond, you think they're calling you to spend you $12?
Yeah.
If that store doesn't have $12 to buy your book,
right? Yeah. I didn't tell you is net 1 year. Yeah. Net 1 year from the sale. But no, again, I think when you get into that world, it's about the aggressive person who just every day looks at himself in the mirror and says, how do I sell more books? Is the person that is going to succeed in this day and age. And if anybody's waiting for someone, you're waiting. You've already waited too long. There's so many successful self-published small press people out there. It is crazy.
Let's talk about some probable outcomes out of this that we haven't talked about. A probable outcome that I see mentioned a lot is that Universal and AdPop will win their the sale to them will proceed, and Alliance will receive some type of settlement or compensation for not winning it. Now, how does that work? Like, how do they decide what amount of money is due to them for?
Oh, that's easy. That's an easy answer there. So basically, what is going to happen? They'll get all their legal fees back. They'll then get anything that they have spent a penny back on, because the notion is once you win, you start spending money.
Yep.
Well, even before that,
already
all
spending
the research, consulting,
investing. You're spending time away from your own business. Your lawyer's drawing up new plans. I mean, so they're then get all that compensation back.
He said it. He said it on the show. Yeah. I went and visited Olive Branch and I saw them packing up all those comics. That plane trip is an expense.
Yep.
Okay. And at the point at which they spent all that money to get to that courtroom to say 74 million, we're the high bidder. All of that money comes into play now. Because wait a second, if there was already a deal to go behind our backs, no matter how much we bid to sell it to these other guys, that wasn't fair to us. Why did you let us dick around when you already had somebody you wanted to sell this to? And the second the judge said, or I'm sorry, the second the trustee or the lawyer said, we're the highest bidder, it's going to us, we then kicked it into high gear. We had to make sure we had this and this and this and this and this. And we had to get our accountant come up with this. And we had to go to the bank and this and this.
Sure.
All of that adds up. And I don't see a world where the judge is like, well, they did all the work to be high bidder. They didn't get the item, but they racked up $10 million in fees and expenses. Okay, Diamond, you're owned by Universal and AdPop. Pay these guys $10 million right off the top. The first, in your ledger is these guys, and that's after the bankruptcy.
Right.
I don't think it'll be anywhere near that amount.
No, but whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah, I think it'll go through to. I think this first one is what'll happen. I think it'll go to Universal and AdPop. I think the judge does have to take into consideration that Universal has done comics.
Well, they're also more beneficial to the current employees that are there, which is a big part of their decision, of the bankruptcy court's decision.
Right.
So,
yeah, and technically, anyways, the whole point is the bid came in afterwards.
Well, and but
that doesn't matter. That's the thing. Like in everything that I've been reading and looking at, you would think it would matter. We would think it would matter, but in bankruptcy court, that doesn't matter. The bottom line is that Universal and AdPop will most likely acquire Diamond. Alliance will get paid to walk away, and the sale will be the end of Diamond as we know it, and it'll be just more craziness in the market. Alliance has a bad taste in its mouth about the comic book industry now, so they're definitely not gonna want to jump back into it.
Right. Well, the excuse, and let me back up here. So the excuse is this. This is what the excuse is. The extra bid came in after the bid because keep in mind, Universal did put in a bid on time.
Yep.
So it's not like they didn't put in a bid. They just added to their bid. So that's the question. Can you add 20 million to the bid to something that you know you don't want? So you sell it to someone else who wants to do it. And that's where the 20 million extra dollars comes in with AdPop. So the notion is if I was Alliance right now, this is what I would say. I'm going to sue to get all my costs back. And everything I actually like about this deal, I'm just going to go do it myself.
Yeah.
And start from
JC's comic stuff says, has the judge asked for a copy of the show yet? No, he watches the show already. You know, he's a subscriber, so.
Yeah.
He got a free membership actually. Thanks.
Yeah, he just got a free membership.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah.
Shout out
Thanks,
to Alex.
Alex.
Appreciate you, Alex.
Yeah.
I think Brian, I think you're missing a different point though. And I don't know what those legal fees are. I just threw a number out there, but listen to me on this. This almost 2 months, May 28th deadline. That's also for Universal and AdPop to talk to their lawyers and go, guys, how in the wind are we? Did we talk to Diamond people and try to make a backroom deal to torpedo Alliance's bid? Well, that puts us liable, guys. We're going to have to pay some money on this, and that's going to come out of your money, not my money. So do you want to back away from this and just let Alliance take it so we don't have to deal with this other lawsuit? And that is also one of the options, Brian.
Well, I had read that they were filing for an injunction from the sale, which
I think that already happened.
Right. So if they grant the injunction, we could be seeing Diamond till the end of the year,
right?
Without courts dates and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, it's one of these things. How much probable outcome in Diamond Comic Distribution bankruptcy?
There you go.
Who made this?
I did.
Alliance Entertainment files
very impressive.
After losing bid, court allows Universal AdPop sale to proceed. Firm likely receives settlement of compensation. Diamond assets go to Universal and AdPop. Retailers face short-term logistical chaos. Publishers see fresh distribution models. Alliance to withdraw or pivot from comics. That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
That's
Who did that?
That's AI. It's a wonderful thing, my brother.
Get out of here.
Yeah, dude. I put that in. I said I copied and pasted some of the things, and I said make a quick chart for me about this.
I think all the indie creators in the chat are going to start lynching you, Brian, for using AI.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Doom Machine?
No.
Where they send the people off into space, the 6 guys and the 3 women, but they don't tell them the world's getting ready to explode.
No.
And then they come back, right? And when they come back, almost all of them die, but 2 survive. But on the way back, because the planet has exploded, the planet is owned by AI. And the AI is like, we don't want man on our planet anymore. This is from 1971, folks. It's called the Doom Machine.
That's funny because that same year, Colossus the Forbin Project came out. And if you know your Terminator lore, that's the movie that inspired James Cameron to create Terminator.
Exactly. So AI is crazy. Every time when Brian said AI, I'm like, we've been using AI for so long. It's pretty crazy.
Well, isn't it funny that like 8 months ago we were all AI never, comics AI never, and now we hear everybody all the time going, it's inevitable.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy who was I go, what's going on? He goes, my printing machine is screwed up. And he goes, that's okay because AI fixed it. And I'm like, so AI is on your printing machine that prints your comics. So even if your comic is not AI, it's being printed by AI.
Speaking of that, and this is totally off topic, have you seen the trailer for Karen Unleashed?
I've seen the AI one.
That's the AI. It's 100% AI.
Yeah.
The trailer is 100% AI. The movie is 100%
It's like Falling
AI.
Down, but with a chick.
And it doesn't look. It looks just like that. What's that? The Hindi Bollywood movie where the guy turns into the giant robot made out of him.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's here. It's coming around the corner, and we're worried about whether Alliance is going to sell our $5 comic books.
Right. Dude, people are buying vinyls and cassettes. AI's never taken over. It's just not.
It won't take over, but it will put a hurt. It will put a hurt on certain people.
Yeah.
So, Dennis, this is very interesting. So let's get your immediate thought right now. What is your thought right now on this question, which just disappeared off my screen? Brian, can you go up one?
No, I can't go in. What was it?
The one that says, Dennis said Alliance was the ultimate.
Oh, Dennis said previously that Alliance was the best deal possible. Talk about a 180. They are the best deal possible.
I think they are. I haven't 180 at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, boom.
I have.
Yeah, no.
I was very excited.
Emmett is the one that's 180'd.
Yeah.
We're both gray and bearded.
I understand that. But here's the thing. I make my own margins. You know, if they want to sell me a $38 record for $45, I decide whether I want that or if I want to charge $50 for it and make $12. That's the way I've always looked at it. If I buy something, I bought a Pokemon card today for $60 and it's $100 card. And I said, put it at $120. I wasn't going to be able to buy it at $50, but I still want to make my $60. And the girl who does it, Pokemon, for me was like, nobody's going to buy it for $120. That's fine. It'll sit in the case until it sells for $120.
And there's your Keystone pricing principle. Yep. Keystone is wholesale times 2. That's Keystone.
This is the kind of thing that makes me nuts because with TCG Player Online, everybody has been putting on, like they put these common rares up for 21 cents, 35 cents, and they're more than happy. You only get one rare per pack. If that's not $1 card in a $5 pack, there's no reason to sell them. I took all my stuff down from TCG Player and I just sell it in the shop. They're $1 each.
Yep.
If we all did $1 each, we'd all do better.
Yeah.
But you have these huge corporations that are busting packs and packs and packs, and they're like 21 cents is fine.
Yeah. Right.
Well, remember they're San Diego Comic-Con, they sold the Walking Dead calendar, right? And you got the Walking Dead calendar, but inside the Walking Dead calendar was a exclusive Walking Dead #1 comic inside it. So I put up those calendars for $10 and could not sell them and said, there's a Walking Dead #1 in this. So what I did was I just started opening them up and selling the Walking Dead exclusive for $20 each and gave them the calendar.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to be inventive in what you do. And Remember, common sense rules do not work in the comic book world. So you got to think the difference. Bizarro is the greatest example, right?
True.
Think Bizarro, or Bizarro think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gotten to the place where your margins are made by you, right?
Yep.
It's gotten to
100%.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it's kind of funny because what we do is we look at margins, but what we're technically looking at in any type, either if you're in corporate or just your own salesperson, it's you're looking at margins, but you're looking at space, and you're saying, how much is that space worth for me? What space turns? What is my A space in the store? So my A space in the store, that's the space that turns, it sells, and XYZ. Dennis might be putting that card in a space that's space C or D, that it's okay if it sits there for a year.
Yep.
Because it's not a turning spot.
Much like Emmett, I make my turns, and I did an entire Pokemon video. If you want to go watch it on my YouTube channel,
I will.
I make more money. I make on average out of these binders, these 2 binders of $1, $2, $3, and $4 cards. Yeah. I make $400 or $500 a week out of just those small turns.
Bread and butter.
And you know what? It allows me to sit on a $100 card that I paid $60 for, that I want $120 for.
Right. Sure. JC has a great question. Is it possible a judge will break up Diamond into pieces? That's what they're doing right now by going with Universal. They're breaking it up into 3 pieces. So that is very possible. Every piece of asset that was available for bidding, and I can't go any farther than that, but everything that was available for bidding had a bid on it individually. Yeah. Alliance came in and said, we don't want to play that game. We just want everything that's available for bidding. Alliance does not come in. This is done. We have 10 companies that own parts of Diamond.
Yeah.
Free comment.
There's another question. Go ahead, Emmett.
I was just saying is the other thing with the $69 million, maybe that bid was higher for those 2 pieces of, or are they buying all of it for 69?
They're buying all of it for 69.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, all of it, except for some specific.
They were the only other bidder for the enchilada, aside from Alliance.
Right, but did they have to purse it for the courts? Did they have to say, well, we're paying this much for Alliance and this much for Diamond, and then these little bits for the other spaces?
Well, in this case, they did, because they did do the break off to add pop. So basically, it's 49 and then 20. So
but Alliance with their 74/84, they did not break down how much
they
per
said
unit.
We want it all.
We want it all.
And they haven't, and a lot of people are saying, oh, Alliance isn't going to, doesn't have any thing to stand on because they've said that they are going to get rid of some of the things. They have not said that they're going to get rid of anything. Nothing. No. Yeah.
We lived through the interview. We watched the interview again. We edited the video, the interview out. It was cataloged everywhere. At no point do they say, yeah, we don't give a what they said. We don't understand Free Comic Book Day because we have Record Store Day. But they didn't say we're going to end Free Comic Book Day. That was never said in the interview.
Warriors for Info TV says, won't the lawsuit dictate who gets Diamond? And he's talking about the Alliance lawsuit. Now, again, more information from our famous lawyer, AI lawyer. It says here that basically, most likely, Alliance Entertainment's lawsuit will not block the sale of Diamond Comic Distributors to Universal and Ad Pop, but will result in a financial settlement or concession. Here's why. Alliance claims that Diamond broke its commitment to their $85 million bid by favoring a lower $69 million bid from Universal Ad Pop. However, Diamond is in Chapter 11, and bankruptcy courts prioritize deals that offer the best total outcome for their creditors, not just the highest bid. If Diamond's team can argue that the Universal bid offers better long-term operational stability or fewer risks, the courts may side with them. The most probable outcome for Alliance is that a settlement or compensation will happen, and Alliance will receive a breakup fee, reimbursement for legal negotiation costs, or monetary damages to walk away quietly. This is a common outcome in bankruptcy sales when a stalking horse bidder, like Alliance, gets bumped.
Right.
No asset control because they likely won't end up owning Diamond unless the court finds serious misconduct with the bidding process. So that's very interesting.
Right. There is a word in the lawsuit against Diamond that I can never say. It's coerce. Is that how you say it?
Coerce.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they are claiming in that lawsuit, that Diamond worked with Alliance and AdPop to do this. If you read the lawsuit, which I believe Swag had on his show, and I believe one other person had on their show. So it's all about wording. In the day, I truly believe that Alliance technically might win if they lose, and they might win, and they'll win if they win. And if they lose, they win by knowing something they did not know. And now, instead of them looking at 20 items, they say, wow, there were three things there we really know help our business. So instead of spelling 84 million, we're going to hedge about 20 million on investing in XYZ. And I think
Love
that's
you, Adam.
what we're doing.
Well, and at some point, Alliance, we all agreed after we had the interview, Alliance really wants Alliance Games. That is a profitable entity that they can work right into their business model, and they feel that. But guess what? If they lose and they've got their 84 million and they go back home and they get a couple extra bucks to pay off their lawyers and no worse for wear, you don't think they can build an Alliance Games?
That's exactly what Jesse said. 100%.
Yeah.
They can and they can't. And the can is they can try, but what they can't do is get the amount of product that Alliance gets now. So AENT would have to start off very, very small.
Yep.
Right. And then work their way up, because they'll then get bumped quite a bit. Because what's funny, in that world, it doesn't matter how much money you have.
No.
That's immaterial.
It's how much product you get.
Right now, TCG, you just can't get anything.
Yeah.
Like Pokemon's, like you can get the original drop, you can get your allotment, and then you can 20%. Sometimes, you can sometimes get a little bit the next week, but after that, forget about it. In One Piece, if you have right on it from the beginning,
especially when GTS is selling it out the side through Walmart.com.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Brian Rickard asks, what percentage of shops do you estimate are going to have catastrophic damage done to their business when their debts get called in? Are their debts even going to get called in?
They already were.
Well, legally they have to be, because whoever's gaining it is assuming those debts. And I can't see someone picking up $32 million in possible recovery and saying, oh, where's the trash can? Nah, we don't need that.
Yeah, nobody is not going to sell that to a creditor.
Yeah, exactly. And the creditors then break it down. They then get maybe, 25 cents on the dollar, and then they don't even have to worry about it anymore.
They might be able to get it if these people are going to stay in business, go forward, take a certain amount each week extra in comics. I mean, everything under a certain amount could be paid in a reasonable amount of time with a small interest rate. Like when we would buy their POS system, you paid that over time. There was one time I did owe Diamond. It was only $2,500. It was because they forgot to charge me over like 3 or 4 weeks. And then I paid that back at I think $150 a week. So, I mean, some of these, like if you owe them $1 million, you're not going to pay back on weekly amounts. But if you're, under, a couple of grand, maybe up to 10 grand, they could take that slowly back
Oh yeah. Well, I'm the best example of it. At one point, I owed them $250,000. I paid it back. I didn't pay them back all once, but they said, "How much can you afford every single week?" I never missed a week, right? Yep. And that's when I was doing like 4 exclusives a week and all that, and just started adding up. But at the end of the day, it's kind of funny, right? If you're a store and the debt collector calls you and says, "I'm collecting for Diamond," you're going to say, "Well, first of all, I'm not ordering anything from Diamond anymore. I only order from Lunar and Penguin, so you can make all the phone calls you want."
Right.
Except for in that contract that we signed when we first opened our account, and I knew this from somebody who was very reliable. Diamond in their credit department had one person who was in charge of sending lawyers to put liens on houses and go for your assets if you were a store owner that owed them money and closed up shop.
Yeah, but that costs so much money to do. If it's under I would say if it's under the 5,000 mark, they're not going to do that. They might hit your credit score, but as far as assets go, you got to be up in the the 50s, the 60s, the $70,000 range. You got to keep in mind, send them $1. Well, never mind. I'm not going to say I'm not.
You're attempting to repay.
Store owner. I am not here as an advisor on how to work with that person who's calling you to pay a debt. So, let's put it this way: if I was in that position, what I would do is I would just send them $1 a week. I am attempting to pay on what my budgets allow at this time, sir.
So
the only thing they can do is say we're not sending you books, but like you said, there's not enough there to force people to send you the money. They had the chance to do that and they didn't.
Right.
Yeah. And Jesse and I for the last 4 months has been telling you, if you owe Diamond money, you better figure out how to pay it.
Yeah.
Well,
figure out how to pay it.
Here's the other thing. All right. So that also, the accounts payable thing also helps the case for Universal Ad Pop, because Universal Ad Pop probably had a better relationship with said retailers that owe money than AENT did. And I'm not saying better relationship as in they're buddies. I'm saying as more people probably had accounts already with Universal and Ad Pop than they did AENT. So they have a long-standing relationship with them, which means that Universal will be better off, better prepared to give those retailers that owe money, if they take over Diamond and then they're still distributing some comics to those retailers, to create new negotiations or a new deal with them to not only pay off some of that money, partial or all of it, and get new product, right?
Well, yeah, and I think that's with every single comic book store across the way is it's going to be. You signed up with us. Excellent. We see your $5,000 in arrear. So what we're then do is every week we're then attach $250 to your order. Do you agree to this? No, sorry, we can't help you at this time. Yep. However, if you do agree with this, we can start you off right off the bat. But if you miss a payment, we don't get your comics.
Sorry, go ahead, Jesse.
No, I'm done. Yeah.
Well, and I know this is happening right now. And I'm not going to call any of them out, but I'm in all the retailer groups. I'm seeing stores make small announcements like, "Oh my God, we didn't get our Diamond books this week." Is that because Diamond screwed up, or is that because you owe Diamond money and they stopped your orders until you pay them the COD tag? I don't know, but it does seem odd that there's a lot of people not getting Diamond boxes, but everyone else seems to be getting Lunar and Penguin boxes, and most of the people I know are getting their Diamond books still.
I was COD for 8 years. For 8 years. And then they posted something on their on their front page of the Diamond website that said, "Oh, get your books, pay for them right away with credit card." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm in. Finally, I don't have to write a check every Wednesday."
Yeah, but you have to pay that 3% fee, right?
I don't care. It's cost
Yeah.
of doing business.
Yeah.
I let Diamond take my 3 and I eat my customers' 3. So that's 6% I got to make up.
Yep.
Very interesting, man. I mean, so the next date that we're looking for is that May date. I mean, this just keeps getting pushed out, and pushed out, and pushed out.
That can is kicked a long way. That's a long way down the road.
I think something's got to give. I don't think, well, first of all, how much money is in Diamond's coffers to keep the trustee paying all the bills? That's also a question. Do they have 2 months? I mean, they've been kind of living on borrowed time for 3 months. Do they have 2 more months worth of money coming in? Little. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they're burning through all the stock that is theirs or not theirs. But yeah, so remember when we used to get quarter sales for variants? Well, now you're paying full price $10 or $25 for a 1 in 50 or a 1 in 100. It's $25. So yeah, they're making a lot of money on that because I see them selling out. So there's that. A lot of the other variants they have are being at net price, and then you have a small amount that you're getting your regular discount. But there's no more 25-cent books. That's gone.
Here's another quick question. Does anybody know if Diamond is still fulfilling direct orders or reorders for merchandise?
Yes.
They are. I have been getting my orders
100%. I have been getting mine as well.
Consistently.
Have you been getting all of them that you order, or is it severely allocated?
No. Whatever I order.
The funny thing is I'm actually getting stuff that I ordered forever ago and starting to show up.
Right.
Like, I don't know if they found it in a warehouse or what.
I got an email from the ding and dent section.
Damn, I wish I got those emails.
Well, they're like, we have $200 boxes for $100. And I'm like, okay, what's in them? They're mystery boxes. Okay. At half off? No,
yeah,
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah. What's funny is someone said that we know how to negotiate very well for stores. I forgot how exactly they wrote it. Can you go up a little, Brian? It says something about we know how to negotiate well, being store owners or something like that.
I'm just looking for an updated invoice that accurately reflects the account balance.
No. I'll find it here in a second. Go ahead, guys.
Actually, Brian, can you
here
highlight?
We go. It says, holy shit, guys, we are good at this as far as figuring out. The reason why we're good at this is I had 550 box holders that I had to chase 300 every single week and figure out how to get them to pay. So that's why we're good at it. It's not that we owe people. It's the opposite.
But Brian, if you can highlight Brian Rickards, why are people so certain that DC and Marvel are going to be printing?
Welcome to the whole reason of this show, Brian.
That's Brian. We have been discussing this.
Yep.
For the entire over a year that this show has been on the air.
59 episodes.
Because they can lose money at it and still make a ton of money.
No. I agree with Brian on this. I don't think there's a certain point. There's a certain point where the bean counters at every one of these companies is going to be watching the diminishing returns. Now, let me just spell some stuff out for you. Like I said, 70%, now 80%, 90% of the comic publishing world is sitting at Lunar and Penguin Random House. Okay? But like we said, when this diamond sale goes through, all of that debt, 11 million of which comes from the current diamond customers over the last 90 days prior to January. So that's November, December, and January, or whatever those months are. That piper is going to have to get paid. It's as simple as that. They're not going to let those stores keep going. Now, maybe they do the 250 a week thing that Jesse's talking about. Maybe they do the whatever it is. But at some point, those stores that are that far in arrears are not going to be able to pay something. Maybe not their rent, maybe not their electric, maybe not their diamond. At some point, if they're that far behind, they're a dead man walking. Okay.
Yeah, and there was a great opportunity for a lot of stores when someone was really in charge at Diamond who said, listen, you owe us money. What do you have in inventory? And a lot of people did not take that opportunity when it arose. And Steve was trying to be as generous as possible when he made that statement. And stores still didn't do anything to fix their issues. The question on the DC thing is very simple. Wholesale is based on final numbers, not on one number. So if Batman does, 700,000 books and Aquaman does 50,000 books, at the end of the month, that's 750,000 books. It's not distinguished by title. It's distinguished by number of printing, because that's where they're making their money on, is the print count, not on the title count.
So when times are bad and there's less Batman selling, you see more books. You get 11 Batman books.
Yep.
And they stop being $4.99 Batman books. They start being $5.99 Batman books.
Yeah. And $8.99 and a $9.99 foil.
Yeah.
Right.
But back to Brian's question though about how long before Marvel and DC. Just real simple math on this, real quick. When their bean counters go, hey guys, you're only selling 75,000 comic books. You're only selling 50,000 comic books where you used to be selling 100,000 comic books. Why are we still doing this?
Because we sell 100,000 Superman shirts and 500,000 Batman shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
And lunch boxes.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, that's what they're trying to do. I think what we fail to realize, if you go to Las Vegas and you go to the Forum shops, which is some of the most expensive shops in the world.
Louis Vuitton.
I used to run one of them back in the day. That shop I ran lost anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000 a month. Every month. But guess what? When someone went to LA and saw the store, they would walk in and say, are you the store that's in the Forum shops? So them seeing DC nonstop in your store, every single, whether it sells or not, is a huge branding item for them. It's great for marketing. It's great for social networking. So that's where it comes into play.
And it's a near forever marketing, because
unless
keeping them all in the back bins.
I got something to go.
Superman movie coming out in a month.
I got something for you.
Go ahead.
I think that there is a moment that's going to come up, and what Brian's saying is right. And I think that moment is when Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman become public domain. And then it doesn't make sense for DC to write periodicals anymore when anybody can write a periodical about Batman. What makes sense for DC to do that at that point is to license out their characters and to whoever wants to make a Batman title. Now, on the other end, Marvel and DC did this too, but Marvel is learning and playing different games, because you know what they're doing? They're doing Marvel Rivals. And they've announced in the next Marvel Rivals Season 2 comic, look what's going to be part of it. A special skin that you can only get in the comic by buying the comic. So those are going to be the things that cause for them to decide whether it's smart for them to get out to retailers. DC, once those characters become public domain, it changes a lot for DC on whether the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
It's go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that their issue was they didn't pass on the mantle far enough ago to change the character enough that the new generations would love the new character and could care less about the old character when it entered public domain.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, they could do this today.
Yeah.
Nothing stops them. I mean, you could
No.
do this today. We've seen it over the last
Hasbro.
25, 30 years.
Hasbro's doing it right now.
Yeah. Miles Morales is 2014, 2008.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact when he first appeared. That copyright's forever, man. That's like we'll all be dead before that one runs out. So like they were able to reinvent Spider-Man in a way that you can't use. It won't be in public domain for a long time.
That's I think DC's biggest problem is their characters are so freaking iconic that the fan base will not and does not accept anything other than Kal-El of Krypton, Bruce Wayne as Batman, Diana of Themyscira.
Wonder Woman girl book, the one where the Brazilian girl was going to become, that book sold really well for me, and it was doing great, and everybody loved it. And then they were just like,
or something like that.
No, Wonder Girl, the Brazilian one, and then they just made her a character in the Nubia book.
Yeah,
they took away her own book that was selling really well for me. I guess maybe not the rest of the world, but
yeah, I would say
usually a microcosm.
Your mileage varied on that one, Emmett.
I don't know. I mean, they were pretty hyped on it when she first came out, and they had talked about doing a cartoon with her. I just think they've been made bad decisions, constantly about what they do with characters and how to move the mantles on.
I think what you want to really look at is what percentage do they have to be right? Is it 10%, 5%? They only have to be right a very small percent.
Very small percent, absolutely.
Because it's distraction. Like I was telling Brian today, who is winning out of the Diamond bid? You know who's winning? Two companies, Penguin and Lunar. Why? Because it's business as normal. We're just shipping out books, guys.
And they're doing it in a way that's causing retailers who have been having problems with how stuff has been shipped to them in the past are going, we love it. I mean, Lunar and Penguin Random House make changes based on your complaints. They are better contact with you. From every retailer that I've heard, for the majority of those retailers, Penguin and Random House have fixed problems and learned how to be better.
Lunar is superior in the shipping. Right. I have received some damaged books from.
So I just got this book today. Not only is it in bubble wrap, the comics are in protected as well. So it's, even though I'm pulling it out, I'm probably damaging it that way. But they do a great, simple job.
Who's they?
This wasn't hard. This isn't hard. This is Lunar. That's
okay. You didn't say who it was.
Yeah, Lunar. But it's a simple job. That's all you have to do is pack. The person who's packing should not be running numbers, should not be on the marketing team, should not be working on the web page. They should be packing. It's very simple. I don't understand how hard that is. I don't care how many items you have to ship. What you do is you slow it down.
And there's no quality control. They're putting books that were obviously damaged before they put it in the box. They're not damaging them and putting them in the box. They are damaged and they're still putting them in the box.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
Yeah.
Where's the quality control? See a damaged book, put it aside.
Yeah. I want to complain. This is my complaint we should have be. I got my books and going through the pages, page 23 wasn't really lined up pretty straight. That should be our problems. Not I opened up my box and let me give you the 10 reasons why I'm not happy. It's just simple concepts, I think, that we have to look at going forward on how to be successful, whether it's XYZ, AAA, it doesn't matter who the company is. Just learn how to ship.
Diamond has regressed a little bit.
I said to him when I infamously dropped that box on the stage, if I shipped comics the way you ship comics, I would be out of business. And now, 8 years later? They're bankrupt.
Yeah, all from little, there's, I'm going to go on a little rant here. There was a time where comic book store owners had this pride factor that we were all in this community together. And when a summit came, it didn't matter where it was, thousands of retailers would show up. No matter what, even if they couldn't afford it, they would find a way to get there. And as the years progressed, as the, I'm not going to say the hatred because that's a bad word, the knocking service didn't allow retailers to go because they felt that they would be the get off the lawn guy at the show, and they didn't want to be that. They wanted to hang out with their friends, but there were so many. Well, yeah, I get you, but
it's hard to fly 1,000 miles and show up in front of the Diamond when you owe them $50,000-$60,000.
Right, exactly. So it became very depressing to go to events where, I mean, it was packed. You didn't know where to sit, right? And there's some jokes there, but we'll leave those jokes for later. But at the end of the day, there was this huge pride factor, and I'm not speaking for anybody but what I see. Right. And the people would be so excited to go. Holy crap, we would be so excited to go. And it just changed. The last one me and Dennis went to, it was seating for 400. I don't even know if they had 50 people in there.
So all the businesses I did before I was involved in, so I worked for Rent-A-Center, and that was mostly trying to get money from people who owed on their rents for their before they owned it. And then I worked a lot in brown goods for mom and pops, and they all had buying groups, right? So like all the stores, all the mom and pops got together, and they decided on who they bought from, and they decided on what the price would be. Like together, it's this constant, for me, every comic shop is a great. I wish there was one like in every town, because then there'd be that many more comic book readers.
Yeah,
and business for me.
Yeah, we're no longer in the phase where, oh my God, I grew up in the 70s collecting comic books, in the 80s and the 90s, and I'm tired of my job. But the one thing I wanted to do was to open up a comic book store. So we would have comic book fans open up comic book stores. And that was that way all the way up to about 2010, 2012. And as web sellers started getting into the business, who technically just started selling comics on the web, but they really didn't collect comics. They were buying out storage bins. We had a new line of retailers come out, right? And then all of a sudden we had live streamers come out who sell books. Oh, I sell so many books, that means I can open up a retail store. And so we have that generation that comes in. And so it's an ebb and flow, but the generations have changed, right? When you in the early years, it was truly the guy collecting comics, wanted to hang out with other comic book fans and show off his collection. And that's why you opened up a store. And so we are in a different world now where we're talking about distributors and wholesalers. Back in the day, that probably didn't matter as much. Wherever I got my books from, cool, as long as I get my books.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dennis, you're on mute.
Dennis, you're on mute.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't brag. I'm doing things a different way. I don't rely on any of that. And I'm about to open my technically second, if not third store in another city. There is other business models.
Oh,
There's other ways to source your merchandise. There's other ways to get rid of inventory, and still make lots of money doing it.
Well, speaking, you just had a big sale.
Well, I sent that to you. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it tonight.
Look at this, you guys.
So if you guys know the Simpsons cards, the most sought after thing is the Matt Groening sketch cards. This was a press kit sent out to, I don't know how many people in the press, that came with a sealed pack of cards and one of the Lucky D Art the Bart cards. You can't cash it in now, but it's one of the handful that have actually never been redeemed. And plus it's the press kit that no one else has. And it sold for less than the 15 I was asking, but it was still a pretty damn good, decent sale.
Well,
Oh, awesome.
I want to talk about that because that is something that is important. There's another thing that we talk about a lot is I think there's a disconnect with how some of the bigger publishers handle, variant covers, what covers they put in what ratio or what A and B, how they treat artists, stuff like that. The variant game has really changed, and what smart retailers, like guys on this panel, like guys that that I've talked to before, that we've talked about before, what they're learning is that you don't have to do these huge 3,000 print run variants and sell out of that and take the chance of sitting on 2,500 books you can't sell, when you can do something much smaller print run, make it much more collectible, much more sought after, and do it in a cool way also. So I got to give a shout out, because I just saw this, to Chris Roop and Big Clutch. They are doing for C2E2 a Michael Turner G.I. Joe number 21 Renegar issue homage foil cover. Now, if you guys don't know what this is, the G.I. Joe number 21 issue, we talked about it when we had Josh Blaylock on here talking about the Renegar stuff and dealing with Michael Turner when Michael Turner was first getting into the business. Specifically, the Renegar issue number 21, was a Michael Turner cover that they only did so many covers for, right? And it was low print run, and it's a very rare, sought after comic book. Well, the way to do this is not to facsimile it and put out another of the exact cover. No, you do a nice little homage to it where it's still Michael Turner art, but it looks different than the original, but good enough that it makes it a cool variant. That is the type of things that the mindset has to change. And again, it goes back to what we say all the time in this game. Things have changed. You can't be doing the things the same you were doing 5 years ago. You can't be doing the same things the same you were doing 10 years ago. The game has changed.
Can I give you a perfect example of that, Brian?
Yeah.
16, I did my second or third exclusive John Tyler Christopher action figure variant mail away package. And I made it exclusively for Star Wars Celebration UK. And while I was there at the Star Wars Celebration, I saw all these people walking around with the pins. And I'm like, what are the pins? Oh, you buy them over there. Okay, I'll buy some. Wow, these are kind of cool. Wait a second. People are selling these pins for this? What the hell? It's a pin? What? If you buy so much at this booth, you get a free pin? You can only get at that booth? Okay, I'll buy some of these. 2 years later. No, 1 year later. 2 years. 2 years later. Star Wars Celebration, Orlando. I'm like, I'm going to buy a bunch of these pins. These pins are really cool, and the fans seem to like them. And I dedicated like a little 2 foot, 4 foot area of my table to selling the pins that I got at UK, selling my extra pins. Celebration 19 in Chicago, I went pin crazy. I went all in on pins. And pins represented maybe, I don't know, 10%, 20%. I brought comics, I brought toys. It's Chicago, so it's only 3.5 hours away from me. So I went all in on all my Star Wars stuff, but I still dedicated a nice little area to pins. 2022 in Anaheim, I think probably we dedicated an entire 8-foot table to the pins. And I looked at my sales, and the pins represented 35% of my total sales at my Anaheim booth. So Star Wars Celebration Japan gets announced. And I said, well, I don't know if you guys know, but shipping a whole shitload of comic books and toys to Japan is not really cheap. But you know what is nice and cheap?
Enamel pins.
Pins.
This thing, I had my buddy make these little displays. I put the pins on these. I have bags full of the extra pins that I have. Some of these pins are $40, $50 a piece. Some of these are $25, $30 a piece. There's pins that still go for $150 from previous shows. I could take I'm taking literally one box of comic books and 17 of these little display boxes of pins. That's my entire booth. You want to talk pivot? I just pivoted to pins.
Smart.
For my entire booth at Star Wars Celebration.
Very smart.
I'll let you know if it's a bold move, Cotton. I'll let you know how it plays out.
You know what? There's a couple of questions I want to answer. Raul, I have a question. Should retailers that do not pay really be complaining about how they get their free books? They're still businesses. Whether they pay or not, they still should be bitching because they were probably bitching when they owed the stuff they paid money on. They were probably bitching that they weren't getting their books and books were coming in damaged as well. So I don't know if you guys have any other comments on that.
Well, I thought that's a great point, because part of me was thinking when it got announced that all these retailers owed this amount of money, like a ton, it was more than I thought. It was so much more than I thought.
And you didn't believe us when we told you that.
Yeah. It also made me think, like, how much of this is also on Diamond for maybe like they felt bad about so many damages and stuff that they would just say, okay, we're just going to let you pay us next time because you've had so many damages, and this is how we're kind of like fixing the issue, right? We're giving you more time to pay.
It's all on Diamond.
It is.
Yeah.
You got to collect your debts.
I don't know if that's the reason. I know it's all on Diamond because you got to, but it also makes me think, like, is that part of it? Because we do know that Steve Jeppy is a lover of comics and comic retailers, and how much of that was him being a lover of
how much of those deadbeat retailers played on Jeppy's love of comics.
Exactly. So it's both. It's not just one or the other. I get it.
It goes when I made that video for YouTube, the one that really blew up. 75% of the comment section. 100. There's 120 comments. 75% of that comment section is, why the hell do you let your customers get away with that? Why don't you get their credit card when they make a, because I analogized it to the retailer who showed that giant stack of books, $1,400 unpaid, that he got stiffed with. They went after the retailer. 75% of the comment went after the retailer and like, why are you letting them get away with that? They didn't go to Diamond and say, why did you let them get away with it? They went after the retailer who let the customer stiff them for $1,400.
Right. And I had mentioned something about the most important part you have is space. Well, if you hold those books and don't ship it to the retailers, what happens when you get the next issue in? Where are you putting those books? So you're kind of stuck. You kind of got to ship the stuff out because you need the space for the new product coming in. The next question, I'm not quite sure what they're saying, is it says, is LCS exclusivity going to die with Diamond? By Brian Rickard. What does that mean? I'm not quite sure.
I think he means now that the exclusive game, the exclusivity,
retailer exclusive. No, because
retail exclusives. Well, you can still get those through Penguin and Diamond.
Yeah.
You can get them through. You could
directly through Image.
Yeah, directly through drop shipping. There's a lot of ways you can do that. So that I don't think there was no exclusivity.
Oh. Did Jesse just freeze for you, or is it freezing for me?
He's good.
He's right, exactly. So yeah, those were two things that I saw that were kind of cool questions there. I mean, it's questions we don't think about as retailers. That's just kind of like daily rhythm for us. But
the other one that Warriors for Info TV says is something that we talked about on the show. He says
Yep.
Diamond was overcharging on shipping the whole time. Don't forget that part. Now, I don't know if they were overcharging the whole time. I could say that, but
They were.
there was a moment where they said, "Hey, we're gonna lower our shipping costs for retailers," and a lot of retailers were like, "Oh, that's great." A lot of other retailers were like, "Wait, hold on. That if you can lower this so easy, what does that mean? Were you overcharging us the whole time?" So I understand that sentiment of that, but there's things involved in there that maybe we don't know.
Right, exactly. It's like I said, it's very interesting, and I think what happens is retailers that are good retailers wake up and they sell books, and then they do the next thing the same day. They just sell stuff. I mean, we're in a world where I don't really wake up anymore and say, "Oh, I'm selling comics. Let's sell what I got." And I think that's the world retailers have to be in. Brian, I sent you my new exclusive, just so you know, if you can put that up. I do have a new exclusive coming out in 2 weeks. It's Do You Poo from this dude called Marat something. What is it? Or Marat? I forgot how you pronounce it.
I hear people call him Marriott.
Yeah, that is our new exclusive coming out. It's going to be a LTD of 100 copies. That will come out the weekend of C2E2, but I will be not selling them at C2E2. I will be selling them on my live show and on my eBay page.
Well, that's another thing that we're kind of talking about here. That's happening. Jesse's, instead of selling them in his shop, he's selling them on his live streaming. Chris Roop and Clutch looks like are doing theirs on their Whatnot. It's going to be a limited drop on Whatnot. So the live streaming sale places are becoming the main places. Maybe that's the exclusivity that Brian was talking about. He says comics are only sold in LCSs in 2025 because Diamond killed the newsstand business. Do you see comics continuing to only be available in LCSs now that Diamond is gone?
No. So let me first explain. Diamond had nothing to do with newsstands and spinny racks disappearing. That was the publishers. The publishers, when they would send a comic book to a newsstand or a spinny rack, the stores were responsible for selling those books, sending back, tear off the covers, send back for credit, and every book sold, they would get like 20% or 15%. And it was a cyclic system that eventually the publisher said, "We aren't making money doing this. We are going to stop." So the publishers stopped. Now, he is slightly right, because I think the publishers were like, "We got these fucking suckers over here at the LCSs that give us 50% of what the ever increasing book price
pay up
is.
Front.
And they pay up front. And we got these suckers, Diamond, who even when those guys don't pay, still pay us."
Right.
So he's got that, but he's coming at it from the wrong direction. But to answer the overall question, I don't think there's anything in Diamond's system that is ever going to put comics back on newsstands, comics and spinny racks. I don't think there's anything in the people who want to buy Diamond, a la Universal and Ad Pop, that wants to put comic books on spinny racks and in newsstands.
Right. I want to add one thing.
The last thing I want to add is there's only one person. Well, I guess NECA does have some deals with, Walmart and with Target, etc. But I see a potential to come up with a business model that puts comic books on a newsstand in Walmart through Alliance, because they already do that business model, a similar business model with Walmart.
Yep. What I was going to say, one of the reasons for newsstands, one of the biggest reasons for newsstands is those stores had to scan something.
Yep.
Because they couldn't scan they couldn't charge you if they didn't have a barcode on it. So
Yeah.
newsstands traditionally that went to 7-Eleven, Circle K, that was their main source to control their inventory. So that's why they had to have those newsstands on 3-packs, Whitmans, and all that. Didn't have those codes on them. They had them on the packs themselves. And so, yeah, there's a lot of reasons for first of all, the newsstand code, barcode, and then there's a reason why LCSs are the smarter way to actually sell comics. And if you go into airports and you see the magazines and you see all this, half those magazines are going back for refunds.
Yeah, no, it's like 75%, Jesse.
Yeah, yeah.
And here's the thing, and that's the scam of that, which is they want to have a 1 million unit print run, because when they sell all those advertisement and all those little pieces of paper that fall out, for all of the different little ads that fall out, they get to collect money because they are producing 1 million units of that book and putting it into the world. When they take back 750,000 of them,
doesn't matter.
The advertiser doesn't get a refund.
No.
But they make the 250, 80, they get the 80% of the 250 that sold, they scrap the rest and they sell the advertisers on the next month. Comic books lost that business model decades ago.
Yeah, which is ridiculous, because what they don't understand is because comics are collected, those ads are good forever.
Except the second and I had a lot of conversations about this. The second they invented the bag and board, all of those back covers, which was the most coveted ad by advertisers in comic books, they disappeared.
Yeah. 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 It is funny that one day we'll have to do the evolution of ads, and why they don't do ads anymore, like we see in the 70s and
Hostess
the
fruit
60s.
pies.
Yeah. So it's like, again, we've seen the word pivot in the room a lot. And so that's kind of where we're at. I think this started off in, what's funny is you can look at how the conversation started, but the biggest part of business is what we just talked about the last hour. It's just the basic concepts of business. Where, when, how do you sell your product? Where do you get your product from? What are your margins, your turn rates? What is a spot in your store to sell your product at? Exclusives, that's our daily rhythm. We have a daily rhythm every day. If this Diamond thing wasn't going on, or the alliance, and we wouldn't be talking about it. We'd be talking about the day. It actually ruins our daily rhythms, because we got stop what we're doing to pick up the phone and say, yeah, I know, I get it, right? Or a publisher or an artist. The one thing before we go, Brian, I do want to talk about what Mark Spears did on that cover. So if you still have that, that would be a great conversation. I know Mark was in the room for a while. He should be drawing right now. Well, I guess he could do both. He's both at doing good at doing and explain it, because he knows all the aspects of this creation that has been done.
First, we should say Mark was just in the chat and said they had 20,000 units of orders for the main book, the cover A of the 5th printing of Monsters #1.
And if you buy 20 cover A's, you will receive one of the 1-in-20 ratio variants. This is the 1-in-20 ratio variant for the 5th printing of Monsters #1. A lot of people say this is their favorite cover of Monsters. They absolutely love it. I've been telling Mark for many moons now that his skull logo is one of the best logos branding in comics or brandings out there, and I'm very glad he used it. But even more than that, down here in the homage to the credits of all the actors and director and everything that's normally on the posters, movie posters, he put shout outs, and shout outs. 3 of those people are on the show right now. So you're a bum, Emmett. You're a bum. Get out of here. No, I'm just joking, brother. I'm just joking.
That's because Emmett's always blurry. Maybe
I know Emmett's always blurry.
Yeah. I'm a small guy, man. I get it. I am very comfortable in the part I play.
No, we love Emmett, and I just wanted to make fun of him because that's what I do.
No, but this is such an honor. That Mark's a friend of the show. Mark's a good guy. Mark's been through a lot of the ringer, but he still takes the time to do something like this, and it just was so amazing.
Yeah. Does that mean you guys are going to be signing these?
Oh yeah, sure.
I'm going to be remarking them.
Do you want them to be devalued?
Well, I'll be remarking them when I sign them. My remark is going to be crossing out this name right here. So, but I will be doing that.
Yeah.
Other than that,
yeah, and we will not be doing anything Red Hood said when he saw it. So,
Red Hood was so happy.
That one alone. But no, very, very cool stuff, Mark. We want to thank you. We think of you as family on this show, and so it's always an honor to be doing something with you. The question I have about that cover, though. Can you pull that cover up? There is a tooth on there. Tell me about this tooth that is sticking out. What is that a fang? So is this this is vampire skull. Okay. So it's a vampire skull. Yeah. That's why it has that. Okay.
Yeah, I believe Dracula is issue 1, right? And the cover A has a Dracula homage on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a fang. It's a fang. Okay.
Yeah, this is the actual 5th print cover, right? Where is it?
The carrying one, isn't it? Yeah.
There you go.
So it's Bella carrying the damsel.
Okay. Okay, cool.
So very, very good stuff.
Very, very cool. It's
Yep, I got my order in. I've got some coming, so
yep. No, it
did the trick. You got those suckers to buy it. All those people on that cover bought.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I gotta have 10 of those. So 10 is 200, right? And you forget about the 2. What the hell am I supposed to do these 2? Well, we'll sell them.
Yeah, they're Mark Spears covers. They don't have any trouble selling.
Yeah. I don't have to hand sell those. I just put them on the stand and I go, what? They're gone?
Yeah.
But that's
every time I go, I should have bought more.
That's an unintended consequences. Next time, 5,000 names will be on the cover. Exactly. That's an unintended consequence. I don't believe Mark put our names on there to get us all to buy 20 copies or more to get one for ourselves. I believe he put it on there as an homage to all the people that have helped him out. Okay, great. But that's the unintended pay attention, indie press guys. Yeah. You want to get retailers? Call the retailers, know the retailers, learn the retailers, and every once in a while sneak a little homage to them. Maybe it'll help them sell some books at their stores.
Yeah. Exactly. Relationships mean something, and not just in a hobby or in the comics industry. Yeah, they mean everything.
Mean everything.
Everything.
Real quick, we just kind of jumped over something that Emmett said early on in the show when he said a certain video game came into his shop the other day. Emmett, is this the video game that came into your shop?
Yes, sir.
Oh my God.
Mine's not in that condition, but yeah.
That is unbelievable, bro.
Mine's probably a 3.5.
That's crazy.
Unreal.
Yeah.
I sent you a picture of mine.
Are you going to grade it?
On your Instagram. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is to me the main reason that you have a storefront, right?
Yeah.
Explain how this happened, Emmett, if you can.
Actually, I went on a pick to somebody's house. They said I got a bunch of I got a Nintendo and a bunch of games and some other stuff, and I didn't really even go through it. I said, would you take $150 for it? So that person's going to come into a big windfall because I didn't know it was there. I didn't discover it till I came back and started cleaning them, and I said, this looks like that one really expensive game, and it was, and it works.
I think you're underselling that. I think that could hit a 4.55.
Oh yeah.
Unless I see some, I see some curling, and I think that might hit a little more mid-grade.
And here's something very important that you also just said, Emmett, that person's going to come into a windfall. Explain that.
Well, so whenever I buy blind, they don't know what's there and I don't know what's there. And pretty much I tell them if there's a big hit, you're going to get what I pay. You're going to get the 40%. So
ladies and gentlemen,
if it sells in that money, it'll get there.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is integrity. The two I's, integrity and inventory.
Inventory
is the key to being a world-class retailer. And you just witnessed that right now on this show. Emmett, I give you a golf
I told
clap,
you the
my
story.
friend.
Thank you.
I told you the story on that card, Brian. That came in the bottom of a garbage bag. The card that press kit was in the bottom of a garbage bag. And when I found that at the bottom of the garbage bag that I bought for $40, all the stuff in that bag, I called the guys up. I said, hey, you need to come down here. I'm going to owe you a couple more bucks. And they came back down and I explained what they had in that bag. And I paid them very generously for that press kit because they had no idea it was in there. I had no idea it was in there. But when I found it, I'm like, oh, these guys are going to love this.
Yeah. But like now people are very comfortable to sell me stuff on what I offer them because they know if I miss something or they're going to get paid anyway. It just brings more stuff
and that
inventory.
And here's something funny. Mark Spears says that is a great man right there. I will have Emmett's name on my next cover. So you just gained.
What was the super chat question?
Yeah, we have a super chat from LC. Yeah. He says, salute to all the hobby businesses in the trenches. Do you foresee Marvel and DC making a reader-centric book a la Shonen Jump to cut costs and give more stories?
I'd love them to. Oh my God, please. A big anthology with things to do inside and extra stuff and skins to their games and please.
Emmett, didn't you talk about DC putting out a new thing where like they do Kingdom Come and they do these little short digest size? What do they call?
Well, actually, they're manga size. They're what do they call? Compact. They call them compact trades, and they have been selling off my rack. I can't keep them in stock.
Yeah, I think that's something cool.
They're $10 cheaper. They're $10 cheaper than their regular trades, and it's all their best stories, so far. Well, they didn't go back to some old stuff, but it's Watchmen and Court of Owls and the Harley Quinn.
I don't like the trade dress, but I know that was somebody's brilliant idea to have it all look the same.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
But supposedly they're going to keep putting it out. The Hush, they dropped the Hush, and Hush 2 just dropped last week. So that pulled off the table too, man. I couldn't believe that sold as well as it did.
And to go back on that story, and I know I've said this story 1,000 times, but I might as well say it again. So I went to a storage auction, and there was 3 of us at the storage auction. I looked in; they had like 10 short boxes in the auction, but you couldn't really go inside. But there was sports stuff and all that. And so they started the auction, and I said to the auctioneer, I said, well, did they die? Did they not pay? And they go, oh, no, the owner's sitting over there. And it's this older lady, and she said, listen, my son died. I said, don't stop the bidding until I talk to her. She said, my husband died. My son died of COVID. I'm paying $275 a month for this. And I go, well, how long, or for 20 plus years? And I go, well, how long have you had this? And she goes, well, we've had it for about 30, but we moved it over to this one. I go, well, what did you do before this? Oh, we did conventions. So I walked over. I said, where are you guys at? And they said, we're at 2,200. And I said, 5,000. And they said, well, we're only at 2,200. Well, can you beat 5,000? They said no. So I walked back to the lady and I said, I don't have 5,000 on cash. Can I go to the bank and bring you money? She goes, well, I live across the street. And so I go across the street. I'm getting ready to write the check. She goes, can you spread this out over 3 months because of Medicare and or whatever, her taxes. And I'm looking around. I'm like, well, what are you going to do with this rest of the stuff? And she said, well, I'm going to sell it. And I said, well, so she walked me into all the rooms. And I said, call me in the morning and tell me how much you need for all this. And she said, so she calls me in the morning and she says, well, I kind of need 7,000, but I can take less. I go, that's not going to work. I'll give you 25,000. Right. So we gave her 25,000 because it was just, we weren't going to take advantage of this lady who just lost her husband and her kid. And literally, Brian knows what happened the next week. I get a call and it's a military guy and he's done. I'm getting moved around so much. I got 100 long boxes in my storage bin. That's it. I go, how much do you want for it all? 10 grand. Done. We'll take it. Sight unseen. So he gives me the address. I'm like, this is at the same freaking place that I bid at the public auction for the auction place. So I get there. It's actually the space right next to the space I bought the other thing. So the other thing is karma comes into play.
Yeah.
Right. And so remember that when you're buying, that comes into play.
My best story like that is I got a call back in 2011. Now, I'll tell you the first part of the story and then go back and tell you the back part of the story. And I got a call and said, yeah, my husband just passed away. He said to call you if he ever passed away to buy all the stuff in the basement. And I'll tell you what, man, that was 2011. I was spending a lot of money. I literally had $2,500 to my name, all in. I was in the middle of a divorce. It was pretty nasty. It was ugly. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, hopefully it doesn't get over $2,000 because I'll have to buy a truck and I'll have to hire some people to, So I go out there and I'm just like, oh my God, this is insane. There was something like 1,000 Hallmark ornaments. There was a couple hundred, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, wow. Well, I mean, and it was all in boxes. It was all in totes. The whole basement full. She goes, make me an offer because I have to hire somebody to come in here and clean out this house so that I can sell it. And I sat down and I explained, right now, the best I can do is $2,000 for the stuff that you showed me in the basement. And she's like, are you kidding me? For $2,000, you can have everything in this house that isn't nailed down. And I'm like, and oh, no, that was what I said. I said, I will have my people clear out the basement of all the rest of the stuff that we're not taking to help you out. If you want us to.
Right.
And then she says, I was hoping you would give me $1,000 so I could pay the other people $1,000 to clear all this crap out.
Right.
And so she said, I got a sailboat. I got a Craftmatic adjustable vibrating bed that I still sleep on to this day.
Right.
It's the
I'm sure you do.
It's the most comfortable bed I've ever slept in the middle of one of the boxes. And I called her back and she said, no, I don't want any money for it. There was his retirement watch from the railroad company. It was a gold, $5,000 gold watch in the original box with all of the paperwork. I think it sold for like $3,000. I mean, $5,000 was the sky high price, but I think it sold for $3,000. Right. And I called her up and she's like, nope, you bought everything. I'm glad to be done with it. Congrats.
Yep.
And that was one of the best buys I ever had because I was like, look, if I had more money, I'd give it to you. This is my all-in price. And she could have easily just said, oh, no, I want way more for this. No, it was everything she wanted. She got to walk away from that house, cleaned out, empty, with $2,000 in her pocket, and she thought she was going to have zero.
Right. So, Emmett, you've never heard this one. So I'm going to tell you the best purchase in comic book history. So I get a call.
The Mile High collection?
No. I get a call, and the guy says, I got 100 long boxes. The person jetted on me. I got 100 long boxes. How much? So I go, I don't know. He goes, well, just throw out a number. I go, $1,000. Okay, fine. So, Brian knows this story. So I pull up. I got the van, right, to pick up this 100 long boxes. I got $1,000 in my pocket. So the guy comes out and he goes, the machine would only give me 20. So can I pay the $1,000 in $20 bills? I go, I'm thinking, what? I don't even understand what this guy is going. He paid me $1,000 to take because he just wanted them gone.
It's great.
It was amazing, right? I feel bad because you guys kind of showed your pickups this week, right? And this isn't like any type of cool pickups, but I did want to show you some cool stuff I got this week before we go. So I picked up all these bombshell matchsticks.
Oh, love those.
Yeah. So there's about 60 of them, and it's all bombshell.
Are the matches still in them?
Pinups.
Yeah,
Pinups, yeah.
And all that stuff. I'm just awesome. And some are for like taverns and gas stations.
Collectors usually remove the matches.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Plus, you can't ship them with, well,
right.
I guess you could and not tell them. The other thing I got was this cool blue ribbon plastic walking dog set.
Oh, that's
which is
awesome.
Called the Blue Ribbon.
What is
Can
that?
You highlight that? Can you
What
highlight
is it?
It's an old novelty 5 and dime store.
Yeah,
but it's
so-
got all but one on there. Yeah.
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 Yep. So I got that.
You have all the colors. That's awesome.
So I got.
I love that oddball stuff. That's my shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I picked up this,
Nice.
which has never been taken out.
Is that Knickerbocker?
It is Mattel 1953.
Mattel, okay.
1953 Mattel Dr. Zeus. It's never been opened up. It has the musical notes in it as well. And then I just thought this was cool. Everybody's going to say this is your finale, but I did pick up Rocky the Lobster. So
Hey, surprisingly, that goes for a lot of money.
yeah, exactly. It does. So those were my cool pickups.
Did you know that the big mouth bass, Billy Big Mouth basses, go
Oh.
for $100 on eBay?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So go
Nostalgia.
out, folks. Go out and if they don't have comics, they still have cool stuff.
Yep.
Don't limit your horizons on what you can buy to have fun, resell. People like that stuff, and you will be surprised at what some of this stuff is
Well,
worth.
Go to an estate sale, go directly to the bathroom, open the medicine cabinet, and buy every man's cologne that's in there.
Oh, is that crazy?
I wanted to say
it
one
so
more
much
thing.
fun.
The Avon ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, not even just like Old Spice. I sold 3 Old Spice that are discontinued. They were half used for $60.
Yeah. Yeah, especially the car ones. If you can find the cars that are clear, those have extreme value to them. So very, very cool stuff. I just wanted to show you some cool stuff. I just think great conversation tonight.
Yep. I want to wrap up one thing before you sign off, Jesse.
Yep.
Brian, I know you won't remember this, but it was something that I said when we first started talking about doing this show. I said, I want to ask every guest, what is a comic book store? And I think this is more important today, this week, than it ever was before. Everybody complaining about Alliance buying Diamond is worried that this will change comic book stores.
It's already changed.
But everybody we ever talked to on this never said a comic book store is just a place that buys the Diamond catalog. It is just a place that carries new books. Everybody said it's a place where everyone gathers together.
Yeah.
It's a place where, you know, the fans can get products.
It's a clubhouse.
There's dozens of different explanations of what a comic shop is, and none of them are things bought through Diamond and only bought through Diamond. We have proven, this show has proven, the comic shop is way more than just a Diamond catalog store. It is way more than just a new comic hub. It is a place that sells all of our pop culture, all of our fandom, everything involved with it. And it's not just that. And I think once this industry understands, once the 1,200 surviving stores understand what we're capable of and what we're not bound by, I think that's when we can move forward and do better things.
Yeah,
Amen.
it's funny. I was at a small convention and they were doing a giveaway, and the guys, like, everybody's looking at books, right? No one's paying attention because it's like, if I watch that giveaway, I'm not looking through this box, and this guy might get something good in front of me, right? So he goes, well, I'm giving away this book. So someone tell me the first appearance of Harley Quinn, and everybody from where they're standing just yells it out, right? Batman Adventure 12, but continues looking. No one actually wants to leave the box to go get that free book because someone's going to start looking in your box.
Yep.
That's how comic book fans are. And if you can remember that, you will have so many good conversations about ROM in your store than you ever will about an exclusive that was hot for a couple weeks.
Well, oh, that's what I was like earlier when you guys were talking about exclusives. When do you think the exclusives game really started getting hot? 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, when exclusives got hot as far as in the market, or just got hot on being made?
Then people were making them pretty regularly and selling them out the door 10 years ago, right?
This guy right over here.
Yeah.
I'll tell you when they started getting hot. When this guy over here put one or two of them on every hot 10 list for about 6 months in a row.
No, that's more new, but like they started out about 10 years ago.
No. But
the first one that I remember that was the in my opinion, the book that started the retailer exclusive craze was that Del Auto Venom cover. Back in like 20, I think it was a Frankie's or a Sad Lemon variant. That was the book right there that started
2017.
It all. Yeah.
How many do you think from that era that's anybody even cares about? 2?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And going through that 5 years ago, can you name even two exclusives that are still like sought after and on the lists?
Yeah.
It is a
temporary.
It is a temporary thing.
It's a
that
short
the people,
time.
right? But the people who get it love it, and it stays in a collection.
Yeah.
But when it comes in to me, I can't sell them. I mean, I can sell them, but I can't sell them for what the expected value was.
Check out this. I just got that.
Yeah.
Remember that when this came out? Was that not a great book to own? That is awesome. Youngblood blank cover. Well, technically with the people on, but that is their blank cover. That is awesome. Well, it is awesome.
We should talk about, but Brian, there's exceptions to every rule. Talk about what Swag shared with us.
What are you talking about?
The Peach Momoko at C2E2.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And how many fights are going to break out over it.
Yeah.
The Peach Momoko Psylocke Marvel Rivals Peach Momoko variant. It's absolute fuego.
Yeah. Talk to me about it in 10 years.
Well, here's the thing. You just said it. The amount of quantity that will go out into the market and disappear versus how many actually start rotating around to be sold is a totally. There are variants that are there are retailer variants that are still ghosts because they've sat in everyone's collection and the retailer sold out of them.
Yeah. It's just it's like for vinyls for me. So heavy metal vinyls sell really good for me, and they sell for a lot of money. Finding heavy metal albums, you got to wait for somebody to die.
Yep.
Guys do not sell their collection. Nope. You can get disco albums and all the other kind of albums, but man, metal albums and punk albums, when they come around, they're good money. And it's the same with these, but they don't seem to hold their value. They stay in people's collection, but when they finally come out, they don't seem to have that same.
Here's why I don't think they hold their value. Because I think the vast majority of them, people thought that there was less made than what was actually made.
Right, right.
There's a famous one that I talk about all the time that somebody who I don't respect made. And I found out that, he had said that there was only, a couple hundred copies of it made. And then for months and months after he said it was sold out, he's selling them on his live sale. And when this book initially came out, I mean, it was like a $500 raw book. And I saw one the other day sell on eBay a 9.8 for like, I think it was like $40 or something like that. So people find out that the print run is not what they say it is. And that's what's so important about, again, integrity, right?
Integrity. Yeah,
being honest about what the print run is, being honest about how you make the print run smaller, showing the receipts of the destruction of however many books from whatever destruction company destroys your books, showing you destroy however many books. Now, I know people go, oh, you're destroying comics. You could give those away for free. Listen, man, kids aren't reading comics anymore. They're not.
Well, they do at my store, but go ahead.
But you're not going to go take 5,000 Amazing Spider-Man #1s with ripped covers and give them to hospitals. They're going to throw 90% of them away.
Yeah.
So, it's to me, it is 100% the print run thing and the over marketing of those things. Gilbert says, I have found that KRS Comics is one of the most honest I have seen. I 100% agree. KRS Comics was one of the first retailers that reached out to me and said, hey, we want to tell you how we deal with our print counts because we don't like the fact that whenever our name is brought up and about our variants that people do the air quotes behind it. And I said, well, explain to me. And they explained to me that they pay a very reputable destruction company to come out and destroy their however many of their print run to keep their print run down. And they it's very transparent. And that made me instantly go, holy shit. No retailer's ever done that to me before.
The thing is they have to print the larger amount to get the cheaper price so that they can throw away or trash or destroy that amount to keep the print run down.
Yes.
So if people saying that you should give them away, then the print count is still 3,000 or 5,000.
3,000 no matter what you do. I mean, it's and when you do those limit print runs, that's when you got put a cert with it. So that certifies that this is the remaining XYZ.
And I'm not going to say the name of this artist, but I found it really interesting that there's a certain artist out there that always sells out of all of his books, but somehow has a giant warehouse full of all of his books.
Mm-hmm.
How come nobody's been talking about Skybound going sort of public?
I've seen that ad pop on all the time.
Skybound Entertainment selling units, not shares, units for $150 a pop, minimum $539. What are they raising money for? And
well, they
are they getting away with? Yeah, they said they're going to develop a video game. My question is that by not calling it shares, are they avoiding some kind of SEC rules or?
I don't know. That'd be a good question for Big Clutch. He might know some inside track on that, Brian.
Yeah.
Dude, I would drop $1,000 down, to, a little over $1,000 for, I guess that's what, 5, maybe 10 units or whatever.
Yeah.
But
John Horn says, if you print 3,000 and destroy 2,000, is the print run 3,000 or 1,000? It's 3,000. The print run is 3,000. How many are available to the public is 1,000. So,
Right.
That's a weird thing that you have to figure out. Mark has a great point. Mark says, that is why my Monsters exclusives will be limited to very small print runs. There you go. It's
and Mark's the kind of guy you can trust. So
yeah, I did an exclusive for Zenoscope for Fly #1, and I had them pull the first 500 copies off the print run. The first 500 come out, got them all certified, and we sold them separate from the 10,000 piece run as 500, the first 500 off the press. Whatever you do, you can't change the final number.
Right.
The final number is what is printed. It's just like you can't change a Adisha. If a comic gets damaged and you reprint it, it's a second print. It's not a first print. You can't change your numbers, but you can do certs and COA, all this kind of cool stuff to change that number so it fits on what you are selling out of that 3,000. So here's the 1,000 left, and these thousands are certified as the last 1,000.
And although I love KRS, I don't like manufactured scarcity. You know what I'm saying? There's a fine line. I don't know how you address that, but there's a fine line between making something rare and having demand that makes it rare.
Well, the thing is that there are some independent books that get 3,000 print runs done for exclusives, which is larger than the print run of the A cover.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's books that have 2,500 print run, and somebody's getting 3,000 for an exclusive.
Timothy Brandt brings up a great point. He says, I love Mark's stuff, but I've noticed that there are 6 C2E2 variants of his at this next con. This is another very interesting thing that happens, and I'm not going to speak for Mark or speak for anybody, but what is very interesting is that sometimes artists aren't necessarily aware of what the publisher does.
Yep.
So,
and you can name 10,000 artists that has happened to.
Yep.
And being the best-selling book in the history of Keen Spot, I think says it all.
Well, but it also causes artists to say, okay, because of this happening, and I don't want it to happen, it makes them push back from every retailer or every publisher and go, I just can't trust it. I'm going to do it myself now.
And I think that's where Mark's at right now. I mean, do you think when Mark was drawing that Lion-O cover, he thought there was going to be 10, 20 different variants offered at Dynamite for FOC?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, every exclusive I do, I have them sign a guarantee that they will not redo my cover, black and white,
or sell it to another retailer.
Yes.
Retailer.
Yeah, exactly. I get
Which
them
happens?
to sign that contract. One person has done that to me in the last 3 years and voided that contract. I will never buy a comic from him ever again. It will never go on my shelf ever again. If a customer wants to order, they can prepay it, and it's going straight into his books.
I'll tell you where somebody who did a good job on this. So I got that Wicked West. I think I gave you one of them, didn't I, Brian? Or I gave Yee one of them?
You gave Yee one, Natalie Sanders, yeah.
Okay, yeah. One of these days I'll maybe give you one. But they made that book for a limited of 300. We gave them out as a thank you gift. I had a small stack of them left at the end of the show. They sat in a box for 10 years before I realized anybody cared about it. And then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I was looking online. They're going for 500 raw. They're going for 700 9.8. I had 10 of them that were signed by Natalie. I sell those occasionally. Um, that book was so hot and so in demand, but they didn't remake it. They made a foil remake of it, limited to I think 100 copies. They made a print for Natalie to sell because now she gets to capitalize off of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I have no problem with that. That is not destroying the value of making a facsimile of the book that I had for my customers and at that show. Yeah. So there's ways to do it and there's ways to not do it.
Yeah. I have a very cool, so when I used to do doodle nights, I would, at the only thing that was required at doodle night was there was this board and we would pick a subject and it would be like fighting ice cream. You'd have to draw something on ice cream being a fighter, right? And so Natalie and her sister used to always come in to doodle nights 2009 2010 with Mike DeBalfo and Nia Rafine. It was crazy, right? So I have all these jam pieces with like early Natalie, and I'm like, I could never sell that.
Yeah.
Right. Because this, like when you got that teacher's pet, that's like part of their history, their growth.
Right. Yep.
And so that's why it's hard to say, oh, let me just sell them all out. No, I got one here because it's part of their beginning.
And that's the thing is I don't even know how many I have left, but it's not a lot because I've sold and given away a lot of them. That's the first convention I put on. That's the first, time that I think it was Natalie's first convention exclusive type thing.
By far it was her first. Yeah.
And
all together. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's special to me. Do I want to live in a world where I don't have that? No, I want to have one of those at all times for the rest of my life. Bury it with me. I don't care.
Yeah.
Before we call it a night, because we're getting on the 4 hour, getting close to 3.5 hours, there is one thing I do want to talk to you guys about that I want to bring up that's kind of along these lines. It's not necessarily along the lines of oversaturating artist stuff, but it's along the lines of overpricing stuff as a retailer. Now, we all know these famous stories of Mile High Comics and Chuck, and how his website is still from way back in the 1990s and hasn't changed, and his prices are like 5 times the price of what something was go for, and his stuff is so expensive that we all wonder how it sells. I saw this post on IG a couple weeks ago from our boy fucking Rad, who says this is why Torpedo Comics is dying. And John tried to sell it. They preyed on new collectors, gouging them, selling 50-cent books for $15, $150 raw for this Leonardo book, which is a $20 book if at most, right? So, what are you guys' thoughts on? There's certain retailers that don't care if they sell their stuff because they can sell 1 or 2 things at such a high price to the unknowing. That they don't have to worry about it. What are your thoughts on these retailers that overprice things so ridiculously?
It's the same as the exclusive game being $60 for an exclusive that they paid $3 for. At best it's a $15 book, for an exclusive, and you're 5 times in your money, but they want 20 times their money. I think it just hurts you, and then it's sooner or later you get that so many people get a bad taste in your mouth, and your name gets dirt, and then
because that started to happen. You're 100% right, Emmett. Because for the longest time, Torpedo Comics and John had this great name in comics. Lately,
they were on Pawn Stars.
Yeah, and but now it's starting to become the Mile High thing with them. Like the prices are ridiculous, and it's a perfect example of it. You used to be known like for these great things and like cool stuff, and now because your prices are so ridiculously high, you become kind of like a caricature in the industry. And I'm not talking shit about John or Torpedo, but I'm just using them as an example of it, you get to be known as like, oh, their stuff is just overpriced. It's like going to a con to buy stuff. You know that majority of stuff is going to be overpriced. So why buy at the con? You know?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find Mal High's eBay page because we can answer it if I can find their page. So if you can find Mal High's eBay page for me, we can answer this question very easily. So if you can find that, here's the thing. There are stores out there that these guys have deep pockets, and they like being known as the guy that has the expensive stuff at the expensive store. Come look at my safe. Look at the tables that we use. Look at all the things you can't buy, but I'm going to show you, and that's fine. And if you have the money for it, awesome. I'm going to tell you, for someone who personally knows John, and I get along very well with him, so this isn't anything about John, but this is what I've heard from John's store in Las Vegas. Oh my gosh, I went to John's store. I went to Torpedo Comics. It was awesome. It was fantastic. You should have saw what was on the wall. You should have saw the parking lot. The lines were made in gold. Right? Yeah. What'd you buy? Well, I didn't buy anything.
Right. Huge statues. He has like the whole side and back in these giant statues that are like $3,000 and $4,000.
Right, exactly. So if you have a sale, your stuff is still too expensive, right? So I just think at the end of the day, you're always going to have those stores. Mal High Comics, if Brian can
I can't find their eBay page. I don't even know if they're on eBay because
they must have taken it off, dude, because I cannot find it anywhere.
Yeah.
That is crazy. But traditionally, I can tell you how well a store does if they have an eBay page. But
have you been to Project 13 in Vegas, Brian?
No.
That's their really big. It's a huge weed shop, and it's like going to buy a Rolex. They have these beautiful oak showcases, thick oak with glass over them, with the buds laying inside, and you get a bud tender person that walks you around and tells you about everything.
Yeah.
Do you think that weed is more expensive or less expensive?
Right.
That's kind of Torpedo Comics. You go in, they get the full size Silver Surfer. The customer they're looking for drops $4,000 on a statue.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And you have that. When I worked at the forum shops, I would sit there and we would say, well, wait a minute. Nordstrom is pretty high on this shoe and they sell it for $200. Why are we selling it for $2,000? And people, because they want to spend money.
They want to be able to tell people I have a $2,000 shoe.
Exactly. A $2,000. And so there's this experience factor. It's like when you look at a menu, sometimes it's like, I just want to order the most expensive thing on here. Yeah. And you get in that mode. So
yeah. My son has a saying, niches make riches.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I have 2 points on that, Brian. We've all been to a Comic-Con and we saw the dealer who has 50% off all back issues on the end of all of his long boxes. And all the long boxes are always full. And when you look at the prices, you're like, dude, that's a $5 book. Why do you have $20 on it? And 50% off is only $10. It's still $5 overpriced. Those dealers are always the grumpy ones because they overprice their stuff. And then Jesse, you and I, how many stores have we bought out?
Yep.
And when we look in their back issue boxes after they've had their 25% off sale, their 50% off sale, their 75% off sale. And I'm like, how do you still have 10 long boxes of back issues that are still here? Oh, the prices are why.
Yep. Yeah. My first day owning the store, I'm talking to a store owner and he's like, and I'm like, dude, I don't know how to price this stuff. And he's like, okay, here's what you do. Get on your computer. Let's pull a book. And so I forgot what, but it was like Deadpool, whatever it was, issue 2 or something. Let's go to Malachi Comics. You see that price? Cut it in half. That's your price.
Yeah.
And that's how you,
I'll tell you,
price your set. Isn't that crazy?
I train all my people to use Key Collector that price comic books. And I'm like, whatever Key Collector has it, you got 3 different scales to grade it by. Just go by Key Collector. That's where the market is right now.
Yeah.
And it works pretty good because we sell a lot of comics.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes he's high and sometimes he's low. It's eBay is the market. That is the fair market value. Take 3 comics that sold raw, average them. That's what it is.
Exactly. So
but I sell most of my stuff for $2 and $3 back then anyway. So.
Yeah, exactly. Emmett, so first time I went to Malachi Comics, I had to go. Every collector has to go as a comic book collector. It's one of your things that you say, I got to go buy something at Malachi. So I go to Malachi, I meet Chuck. I'm not even in a comic book store. I'm just selling comics on the weekend, but I'm going to buy something. And I say, so we're talking, and I look around the store, and his walls go up like 40 feet, dude. And so I say, oh, I want that Dick Tracy #1. It's on the very top. He goes, oh, okay, that's a great book. That's an awesome book. He walks away. So about 20 minutes go by. I'm like, I can't find anybody. So here he comes back out, and he goes, did you get that book? I go, I can't find it. And he goes, oh, the ladder's right over there.
That liability is crazy.
So anyway, I mean, obviously I grabbed the ladder, but I'm thinking, where do I even put the tip of the ladder on? Did I put it on comics? And so then he's like, no, the ladder. And he has the sideways step ladder, right? Here I'm getting ready to put the ladder on top of comics to get the comic on top. So that's my one and only buy at Malachi Comics. But
I lived in Colorado when I was.
Oh, yeah.
And I spent from the age of 13 to the age of 14 every day in Mile High Comic Store.
Wow, that is awesome.
In the Gateway Mall. And I met Mike Grell there. And then 2 years ago at Baltimore, I met Mike Grell, and I said, do you remember me?
And now you look like Mike Grell.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So great stuff. I enjoyed tonight. It got me off of what I'm going through. But I think at the end of the day, you gotta, if you can find a way to have fun, then I think you're going to be okay. But if you let all this get to you, everything going on, it really doesn't affect your business. We're in a world of selling stuff. Yeah. Sell stuff.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
A little tip to the people using Penguin.
Yeah.
If you add a book late, like right at FOC, and you don't reconfirm, you don't get your books.
Oh, thank gosh. And
so that happened to me last week. I had no Marvel books for a week.
And then I showed this last week, and everybody thought it was funny because I only had one left. I just want to let everybody know that I got 20 more back in. So starting tomorrow night, we do have more Simpson boxers. We got all sizes, small, medium, large, and extra large. So those will be back on sale tomorrow night.
Are you using your old school connects from the Nordstrom days to pick up?
Oh yeah, I use everything, man. Right. I use everything. When I go to estate sale, the first thing I walk up is I find out who runs the estate, shake their hand, get their card, and say, "Listen, you never have to do an estate sale again if you don't want to."
Right.
Yeah.
Dennis, you are getting ready to head out to Japan.
Yes.
That's
cool. Next Tuesday, I will have my bags packed and sitting next to my desk, and I will do this show. And then at, I think, 4 a.m. in the morning, I go to the airport and fly for, I think, 18 hours to Japan.
Wow.
Yeah. Are you going to do some Instagram shorts or something from the show?
Yeah. Hopefully, knock on wood, the new Pokemon set for Team Rocket over there that everybody is anticipating over
Drops
here
early. Yeah.
drops the day after I land.
Oh, you bastard.
So I'm hoping to buy some boxes, and I'm actually going to rip a box or two over there on Instagram. I'm going to do some videos. I'm going to make so much content from Japan. You're going to be sick of me talking about Japan.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
So.
I'll be doing this show live from Japan twice, because I'll be over there for 2 weeks. And then on top of that, I'm going to do Comic Book Mayhem Saturday night, because it'll be Sunday morning, the morning of the con, the last day of the con, before I go over for the morning session. I'll do the Modern Comic Mayhem.
And we can
I
get
want you kids to take a picture of you in line. You never mind. That's then come.
I don't wait in lines.
It's then come off as
well, when we're gonna have a great Modern Comic Mayhem show, because that will be a review of Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah,
as fresh as it can get, which is awesome.
Yep. That is it.
Yep.
All right. Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh, no. I'm trying to figure out how to say this the correct way. So when you're getting your box, I want a picture of this tall guy and all these short people around you.
Tomorrow, you guys, don't miss a Wednesday night review. It's going to be a crazy show. We've got some big announcements that you don't want to miss from that show. We're going to have a couple great guests on to talk about some crazy stuff. So tomorrow night, Modern Comic Mayhem, 10 p.m. Eastern. Do not miss it. Also, I want to thank everybody that helped support the show tonight, everybody that hit the like button, everybody that subscribed. Shout out to LC. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Daniel Mendez for subscribing, and shout out to everybody who have just been supporting Beyond Wednesdays recently. It's been amazing, and we're going to continue rocking with you as long as you guys rock with us. And
I need your help on something, Brian. Can you pull up What the Number 13 from 1988?
Mm-hmm.
There's a big discussion on this book, and people are saying that this is technically a sketch cover. And I want your guys' opinion on it. Or could it be a sketch cover, I guess.
It's not a sketch cover, but it could be a sketch cover. It's the same.
That's why I'm saying. So how would you guys interpret that book?
Yeah, it's not a sketch cover. It could be a sketch cover. I mean, you could have somebody draw something there,
I don't think
but
it's a sketch cover.
Yeah, it's not a sketch cover. No.
What's the EC book? Panic. Panic had an all white page with like one asterisk.
Yeah.
If anything, that's the first sketch cover.
I think the first sketch cover is that Gen 13 book.
No, that's from 1995.
I'm talking 1950s, Brian.
Yeah, and here's why I call it the first sketch cover, because it's specifically made to be a sketch cover. It's called a tryout sketch cover. It's the Bristol board with what's the male character in Gen 13? Grunge or something like that? Grunge. Showing him saying, try it out yourself, draw a sketch on here. It's called the tryout cover, sketch cover. It's the first, in my opinion, real cover meant to be a sketch cover, not just a blank page or an all black cover that you could use as a sketch cover. It's the first book that I could think of that's meant to be used as a sketch cover.
So 1995, you're saying there's nothing pre-1995.
Yeah, to draw your own cover variant. Yeah, exactly, David.
Right.
Yep.
Cool.
I mean, but if there's something, if anybody knows anything different, drop a comment below.
Yep.
So.
And don't forget to say something if you have anything about the show, make sure you put it in the whatever comment section as well.
Yep.
Brian reads all those.
Amen. Yep. So, all right, you guys, much love. We'll see you next time. Adios.
Okay.